Eric Davidson speaking, and I will now call the Tuesday, December 3rd RTD Board meeting to order. We are convened as of 5:32 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I would respectfully ask everyone in attendance to remain muted unless you are recognized to speak. Thank you all for joining us this evening. As the board has moved to in-person meetings for our monthly gatherings, please note that committee meetings have continued to be held remotely via Zoom, and they are audio and video recorded. Meeting minutes, along with the unofficial minutes of the meetings, will be posted as soon as practicable on the board's website. Visit rtd-denver.com, and a live stream of this meeting is also available via RTD's YouTube page. During tonight's meeting, we are also providing Communication Access Real-Time Translation, also known as CART. Anyone who would like to access this service can send an email to the RTD board office using the email address rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com, and a link will be provided. Additionally, the CART transcript can be automatically translated into Spanish for anyone who would like access to a live transcript of this meeting in Spanish. At this time, we'll now move to the Pledge of Allegiance, and Secretary Guzman, if you could please leave your mic enabled and lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Secretary. I'd now at this time like to ask Director Tisdale if you would please read the land acknowledgement.
The RTD Board of Directors graciously and gratefully acknowledges that the land on which our buses and trains operate is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, and other contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to these lands. We honor our indigenous elders who have traveled, inhabited, and stewarded these mountains, hills, and plains throughout many generations. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle any ongoing legacies of inequity of the native and all historically oppressed peoples, and recognize their past, present, and future multiple and beneficial contributions in the district as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tisdale. I will now call for the roll and determine quorum. Treasurer Bouquet.
Present.
Director Broom.
Present.
Director Busick.
Here.
First Vice Chair Catlin.
Here.
Second Vice Chair Geisinger.
Here.
Secretary Guzman.
Here.
Director Harwick.
I'm here.
Director Rosenthal. He is here. I'll note that in a moment. Director Lewis.
Present.
Director Ruscia.
I am present.
Director Sloan.
Here.
Director Tisdale.
Present.
Director Whitmore.
Present.
And this is Chair Davidson speaking. I am here. We have 14 present, 0 absent. We have a quorum. At this time, I'd now like Director Sloan to please read the Statement of Employee Appreciation.
Thank you, Chair. And what a privilege it is to read this tonight, because everyone knows that RTD can't move people without RTD's people. The Regional Transportation District Board of Directors recognizes that RTD's dedicated workforce is the lifeblood of the agency. Every day, RTD employees do extraordinary things to make lives better through connections. We honor their work of delivering transit excellence, service, and value to the community, especially demonstrated during difficult and stressful moments. May the actions taken by the Board of Directors demonstrate our profound gratitude, commitment, and support toward all RTD employees.
Thank you, Director Sloan. Now move to our retiree awards. One of the many rewarding duties of serving on this board is to recognize the RTD retirees, and the time has come for us to do that this evening. At this time, I'd like to read the name of employees who have retired since June. David Mobley, bus operator for 25 years. Tom Hughes, manager, Intelligent Transportation Systems, 16 years. First, before announcing, we do have someone in attendance. Just a round of applause for both of those retirees. Thank you. And I do believe that Mr. Tom Hughes has joined us this evening. And so it's my pleasure to ask General Counsel Snyder and Brett Feddersen, our Acting Senior Manager of Information Technology, if the two of you would like to introduce and speak on behalf of Mr. Hughes. Please go ahead.
Great. Come on in closer, Tom. All right, I want to introduce you all to Tom Hughes. So Tom joined RTD in 2008. He served as our manager of Intelligent Transportation Systems, leading a team of 20, including systems administrators and electronic technicians. In the 16 years he's been at RTD under his leadership, the ITS team has made significant strides in modernizing the systems and on-vehicle technologies that we employ. Before I turn it over to Acting Senior Manager of IT, Brett Feddersen, to say a few words, I just want to say thank you, Tom. Thank you for your service and your contributions to RTD and the people of the district. Most leaders do strive for continuous improvement and to leave their teams and their organization in a better place than when they started. And Tom, you've certainly done that. So thank you.
Good evening, I'm Brett Feddersen, and it's with great pride I get to say a few words about Tom Hughes. If I could pick one thing to talk about with Tom, he's empathetic. Tom always showed empathy to his employees when something was going on in their personal life, and Tom never questioned their need to take time or even just to take a break for a few minutes to process anything that was going on. And if there's two things I could say about Tom, it's his transparency. Tom would take the time to talk to his team during staff meetings about feelings towards situations at work and encouraged all of his team to share if needed and that his meetings were a safe place. Well, if you combine empathy and transparency, you build trust. And Tom was a true person of trust. Never once did anyone have any inclination to think that he was not trustworthy, and never once did he not follow through on what he said he was going to do. Never once did he try to pass the blame to someone on his team if something went wrong, and he always advocated for his team in good times and in bad, regardless of the situation. Well, you build a team with that kind of trust and you get results. And Tom transformed support for the revenue fleet from a disorganized, generally ineffective unit to a model of efficiency in the entire agency. And then he took those results and he built on excellence. Tom actually represented RTD, or Tom represents the very best in public service and has brought this excellence in representing RTD on the board of the Consolidated Communications Network of Colorado, the CCNC, ensuring the district's radio communication interests were advocated for with the statewide digital trunked radio system network, making sure that our ability to talk to buses through a radio system and our frequencies were always advocated for. Tom grew up in Grand Junction, just like I did, although he went to the wrong high school.
Other side of town.
And about 10 years earlier than me. And all I have to say, Tom, is here's another Western Slope kid done good.
Thank you. And Mr. Tom Hughes, please go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. My name is Ryan Hull, and I am the Mobile Technology Supervisor here at RTD. And I've worked for RTD for almost 24 years. More than half of that was working directly for Tom in the Mobile Technologies Group. And what I can definitely tell you for sure is prior to working for Tom, not just here, but in other positions and other companies, it felt cold. You just came to work, you were told what to do, and then you went home. When I came to work for Tom, he really fosters that you're a human being feeling, which I never felt that at work. And it really took place when illness struck home, and I had a terminal illness at home I had to deal with for 11 years. And like Brett said, he never questioned when I needed to take the FMLA time. And then when that individual passed away, he stepped in and helped cover and everything when I was gone. So Tom really is the epitome of what a manager should be. Keeping things going, keeping the lights on, but also treating your employees like human beings. And Tom, I can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. It's been a great opportunity. It's been such a rich part of my life. God, just to work with the team, and you've got a team of 7 technicians and a couple of technical administrators, kind of wandering around, picking up odd jobs, taking care of broken electronic components on a bus or a train, filling in a lot of different things. And we were able to take that team to very qualified IT specialists in the technical group and system administrators that can run the back office and work with the users of that, the dispatch teams from, I don't know if you realize, we've got 6 or 7 dispatch centers within RTD, from bus, light rail, paratransit, to safety, security, transit police, a commuter rail dispatch center, our own and our contractors. A lot going on there, and then every bus running around with, gosh, $20,000, $30,000 worth of a local area network on each one of those, camera systems, everything that's going on. And we were able to embrace that and grab it. And every time we found something that didn't have an owner, there was a system somewhere that people relied on and didn't know who to call, we grabbed it. We grabbed it and we pulled it in. It was, sorry. It was great to see people get engaged and get excited about it. As we move into new technologies, I just look for our senior leadership. I look for the first level supervisors and the mid-level managers to really embrace that and to bring people on board, to get people engaged, to get them focused into what work is all about, and at the same time, what family is all about. So, I just can't say enough. I was given that opportunity, and I'm so proud of where we've come and what we've done. So. Thank you. RTD also took care of me, just like Ryan was saying. I had lost a loved one. So through this, my wife passed of cancer. And RTD took care of me too. So thank you everybody. Yeah, please.
We're going to pause for a few pictures, but everyone just stay seated and we'll be right
I wore my best Hawaiian shirt for tonight just to celebrate this moment.
I'd like to, again, thank Mr. Hughes. Thank you for sharing your personal story, your successes with us, and for your 16 years of service that has helped make millions of people's lives better through connections over those 16 years. So thank you for serving your community and in this agency for all those years. Unfortunately, Mr. Mobley wasn't able to join us this evening, but also we thank him for his service as well. And again, for the commitment and dedication of all of the public servants that work at this agency, thousands of them, for working to make lives better through connections. Thank you for joining us and sharing your story. This time, we're now going to move to our public participation period. This is open to anyone who would like to address the board. As we have both in-person and remote attendees, in-person comments will go first, followed by those who are participating remotely. For those attending in person, please come up to the podium when your name is called. If you have not already signed up to speak prior to the meeting but would like to do so, you may approach the podium when I call for any additional speakers and line up behind the podium. For anyone attending virtually, if you wish to speak and have not already done so, you can raise your virtual hand on Zoom or press *9 if you're dialed in by phone. Staff will unmute you when it is your turn to speak. And if you are dialed in via phone, you can press *6 to toggle the mute settings on your phone. Please bear in mind that anyone participating in this process is being recorded. And if you do not wish to be recorded, you are welcome to submit your comments in writing to the RTD board office. If any speaker has documentation or reference materials to accompany any comments to be shared with the board, you may submit those written comments or any of those reference materials to the board office using the email address rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. During this public participation period, the board does not offer any direct comments or responses. However, if you would like to be contacted regarding your comment, you may email the RTD board office, the previously noted email address, rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. Speakers, please begin your remarks by stating your names, and you will have up to 3 minutes to provide your comments. I will let you know when that 3 minutes has come up. At this time, I will start with our in-person speakers who have signed up, starting with Emma Griffin.
Hi, my name is Emma Griffin. Thank you for allowing me time to speak. I am a co-lead for Greater Denver Transit, and I would like to take the time to thank the outgoing RTD Board Chair Eric Davidson, as well as directors Jamie Lewis, Paul Rosenthal, Doug Tisdale, Bob Broom, Bobby Deschelle, and Marjorie Sloan. I know this has not been the easiest time to lead RTD, but we as an organization are thankful for the board's work through these turbulent times.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is Paolo Solorzano.
Hi, Paulo Solorzano, RTD Riders Alliance. I just want to start off by, saying a few good things that I've noticed out there, RTD. I've been taking surveys with STAT team the last few months, so I've talked to a lot of riders, and the 19 and under free fare for youth has been amazing. Almost every child has been saying that they're using it more now than before, almost like 95%. So it's amazing. But unfortunately, I have some things that I think need to be urgent. These are things that I've been, that are on the RTD Riders Alliance Facebook page. We're hopefully going to get a website soon. But these things have been coming out since 2018. Have been a problem since 2018. Real-time scheduling, signage, incorrect signage, ghost trains, leaving people stranded. This, of course, you don't have to say this. People end up spending hundreds of dollars on lifts. They're barely trying to pay rent right now, and they're unable to get to their second job right now, because that's a requirement for a lot of people, and with the way things are, on top of ghost trains happening, it's $100, $200, $300, $400 a month that people cannot afford. And I've talked to a lot of people that have rescheduled their medical appointments until after the construction, more than I ever thought I'd hear about. But I've personally experienced that with my orthodontic appointments. I've missed 3 of them last year. Really quick, the light rails, I mean, the real-time scheduling, in the last few months, it's been really bad. The snowstorm, the biggest snowstorm we've had for a long time, 11/8 through 11/9. The next ride was down all day long. Customer service was not aware that the next ride system was down all day long. I guess it was down for a week or 2 before that as well. And it's again during the wheel break, when there was a wheel break in 11/18, 5 lines were delayed. I was out there on 16th and Street talking to people, many white-collar workers who had all their plans messed up. There were ghost trains. The Lamar station, the Lamar signage and the light rail next ride was all not syncing up, and people were having to go from 16th Street to Union Station to try to make their connections. And then the A line has been down. It was down for a week or more. It finally is going up and running, but yeah. I guess I'll just leave it at that. That needs to be an urgent thing, and we hope everyone I've talked to hopes to hear you guys talking about how that is going to be fixed immediately. So, thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments and for joining us. Our next speaker signed up this evening is Danny Katz.
Hi there, my name is Danny Katz. I'm the Executive Director of COPERG, the Colorado Public Interest Research Group, and I'm here to celebrate. So I'm here to celebrate the passage of 7A. I just wanted to make sure there was some moment set aside in this board meeting to just acknowledge that that was a significant win and victory for transit in our region. And there was a lot of people, obviously all of you played a role in letting the public know and educating the public about the importance of voting yes on 7A. But there was also a coalition out there, and I wanted to take a moment to make sure that people recognize all the different groups and individuals that were out there spreading the message of vote yes on 7A. Not all, there's probably more than what I'll read here, but I wanted to just acknowledge, especially through a campaign effort called Keep Transit Moving. There were a lot of different organizations and individuals. So to give you a taste and a flavor of all the groups that were out there saying vote yes on 7A, I want to thank, on behalf of the coalition, groups like the ARC of Aurora, Adams, and Jefferson County, the Center on Law and Policy, Poverty Law Center, the Cross Disability Coalition, AARP Colorado, Denver Streets Partnership, Greater Denver Transit, Servicios de la Raza, the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, Bicycle Colorado, Conservation Colorado, Sierra Club, the Atlantis Community, the Colorado Children's Hospital, Pedestrian Dignity, the ATU 1001, Commuting Solutions, West Corridor TMA, Transportation Solutions, Downtown Denver Partnership, number of different chambers across the region, including the chambers of commerce from Boulder, Denver, Superior, the Northwest Chamber Alliance, Denver South, Broomfield, the Colorado Restaurant Association, Mile High Chapter, lots of other elected officials out there, including the Metro Mayor's Caucus as a caucus, but then individually mayors that were getting out there and promoting the Yes on 7A effort, including mayors from Boulder, Broomfield, Wheat Ridge, Denver, Golden, Littleton, Westminster, Lakewood, Longmont, and Arvada. Number of city council members, towns, whole city councils and towns were endorsing this. A number of state legislators as well, so specific shout outs to those who endorsed and added their names to our campaign pages include Representative Weissman, Titone, Amabile, Froelich, Judah, Mabry, Leader, Doherty, Senators Michelson, Janae, Senator Winter, Senator Bridges, Marchman, Sullivan, and Senate President Fenberg. I also, again, want to acknowledge, I'm sure the board members were doing a lot out there, as well as any and everyone who contributed to the campaign any money. We know that voters have said don't cut RTD's budget. That's great. The next step now is to paint a picture of the future that involves growing our transit system and really filling some of the gaps that still exist. And that's really falls to the shoulders of not just you, but the incoming board members. So again, let's celebrate the win on 7A, and thanks for everybody, and hopefully I didn't miss anyone. Thank you.
Thank you Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your work. Our next speaker is Keith Brooks.
Well, for 7 of you, oh, hi, yeah, I'm Keith. For 7 of you, this will be your penultimate time you'll have to hear me yap. My condolences. Well, it wouldn't be a Keith comment if we weren't doing it live. So, there's much to discuss, but I don't want to be that one kid that reminds the teacher to hand out homework on the last class before break. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for putting up with me for however long I've been coming to these. I know early on, and maybe more recently, I've meandered a bit, but this opportunity has really helped me grow, and I really do appreciate it. I wanted to point out some good things that are happening that have not even been made public, but show improvement and learning, and that if the last time's bad, the next time will be okay, and the time after that will be great. So, for example, slow zones. They're still there, but the amount of track one rail burn takes down has been improved. Because at first it was just, we haven't found all of them, so shut it all down. But they aren't shutting down all of the sections between stations when they find one rail burn. They just do a few hundred yards on either side. Also, no official announcement has been made of this, and we'll get to the budget later, but no item in the budget has been found for it because it's been too detailed. But contractors with heavier equipment have been seen out working on the rails, just spotted like a rare bird. There has been no official acknowledgement of that, but we see it, and we thank you. So to all the directors, to all of the staff, thank you for a hard but solid 2024, and here's to a better 2025. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for joining us. Those are all the folks who signed up to speak here in person. However, at this time I'll ask, is there anyone who was hoping to address the board that did not sign up? Please line up behind the podium and approach. Please start by introducing yourself, and then you will have up to 3 minutes to speak, and I will let you know when that 3 minutes is approaching.
Hello, my name is Trent Taylor. I'm a labor and employment lawyer here in the city of Denver. I work and live in the city of Denver. I recently moved to Denver for a new job, and I wanted to provide a personal perspective on behalf of myself and other people who are eligible and make use of the Access a Ride on Demand program. I started experiencing vision loss about 8 years ago and became entirely dependent upon public transportation for my travel and my commute about 6 years ago. So I understand the importance of this program, and I would like to address the contemplated cuts to that budget and the effects that it will have on the population of Denver who use that Access a Ride on Demand program, and the other fellow citizens of the greater Denver metropolitan region. First, the board has proposed limiting the use of the Access a Ride on Demand program to 30 trips a month, which is entirely unfeasible for people like myself and many others who depend on that as a means of commuting to work. Those who hold full-time jobs, work 5 days a week, will use it at a minimum 40 times a month or 44 times a month. In addition, the costs or the limits of the eligible trips will severely impact the tax revenue base for the city of Denver and outlying communities, because people like myself and many others who use that to frequent local shops and businesses who pay sales taxes on those expenses will be forced either not to engage in that part of the economy and purchase from out-of-state businesses or online services, which do not bring tax revenue to Denver. And so those are very important concerns. I moved here to Denver in part because, or largely in part, because of its public transportation system, which would enable me to live a full life, which means going to work, getting the goods and services that I need, spending time with family and friends, and partaking in social activities that I could not
Taylor,
enjoy otherwise.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's at 3 minutes. If you could just take a few seconds to wrap up,
Sure.
please.
I would just urge that the RTD board take these facts into consideration when determining what they're going to do with that. And as a final comment, I would say we still have not received an analysis, cost-benefit analysis of these cuts, and that's essential to making an educated decision about a proposed cut that would affect a large group of people. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us and for your comments this evening. I'll ask our next speaker to approach the podium, introduce, and have 3 minutes.
Hi, directors. My name is Chris Nicholson. When I first met Jamie Lewis, I didn't know what to think of him. We were competing for the same appointment. When he got picked, I'll admit, I wondered if RTD had just gotten a seat warmer. What I didn't know then, but do now, is that Director Lewis has been a stellar board member. He has used his time to dig into the details on the agency's decisions, advocate persuasively on issues like paratransit, and set a high bar for the person who will succeed him on the dais. Thank you, Jamie, for stepping into the heels of another incredible public servant, former director Kate Williams, who served the previous 7 years. Kate, thank you for your incredible work for so many years and your ongoing advice helping me prepare to follow you and Jamie as director for District A. I look forward to asking both of you for lots of advice and guidance in the years to come. I hope I'll live up to the impressive example that you both set. Last, my dear friend Paul Rosenthal will be leaving the board after tonight. Paul has served this agency admirably for 4 years and taught me so much in that time about just what it means to be a board member, serving as a model with the incredible public engagement that he has done in the community over the last 4 years. It's as if everyone in District E knows Paul personally, and he has taken the time to listen to community in a way that I hope to embody. Thank you, Paul. You're such a mensch. And thank you all.
Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for joining us. At this time, I'm not seeing anyone else who has lined up behind the podium to speak in person. So we'll go ahead and move to our remote attendees. And as usual, I'll ask Mr. Jack Kroll, the Executive Manager of our board office, to please assist me in calling those names and individuals. For those attending online, when your name is called by Mr. Jack Kroll, You will be unmuted, or you can unmute yourself, and you'll have up to 3 minutes, and you may begin when Mr. Kroll calls your name. Mr. Kroll, the first speaker, please.
Thank you, Chair Davidson. We have a bit of an interesting situation going on here in which it appears that we have one individual who has registered and then distributed their registration link to several others. Nothing wrong with that. It's just going to make it hard for me to know who is next to speak. So at present, I see an individual by the name of Curtis Chong with 4 hands raised. So what that likely means is there are 4 individuals using the same link to provide public comment. Again, nothing wrong with that. I'm just not going to be able to know who's next. And so we'll go now, I presume, to the first Curtis Chong, and you can unmute yourself and provide public comment.
Please go ahead. If each of you can just introduce yourself for the sake of the record, and then you'll be recognized for 3 minutes. We'll start with the first.
Hi, I believe I'm the first Curtis Chong, and my name is Jessica Beecham, president of the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado. And I wanted to start by saying thank you to Deborah Johnson and her team. We, as the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado, passed 3 resolutions at our convention this year dealing with RTD and things that we as an organization were looking for some resolution around. And she and her team met with us a couple weeks ago. We had a really positive meeting, and I think have some really great action steps to move forward. So I just wanted to commend the RTD staff there. I did also want to talk a little bit about access on demand. We got an email that there are going to be some listening sessions coming up during the busiest part of the year when people are doing holidays and wrapping up work and all of those kinds of things. And there are 2 times for listening, but this is a terrible, terrible month for that. So I'm hoping that there will be additional sessions in January as we move forward so that we can make sure that people aren't so caught up in the holiday minutia and all the things that go along that they're not able to attend those listening sessions, because those are going to be really critical. I want to echo Trent's sentiments around the 30 rides just simply not being enough for folks that work, and that there are other, I think, concerns that might be able to be addressed differently, that hopefully could still result in savings of dollars, but that would allow us to keep more of the integrity of the service that people have grown to really utilize and appreciate in the blind and low vision community for those of us who utilize access on demand. So I think that's all I have. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to the outgoing board members, and thank you to the incoming board members who will be tackling these really tough issues moving forward.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening and sharing your comments. I'll actually go ahead, Mr. Kroll, and work through that first list and then come back to you for our next speakers. So we'll go to whoever is second in the queue under Curtis Chong.
Hello, this is Nate Trela in Englewood. I am, I guess, person number 2. I definitely wanted to first appreciate the opportunity, as always, to speak to the board, and want to thank all of you for your service through your terms here. I know not all of you will be part of the final decisions about the changes to the paratransit program, but certainly there's been a lot of discussion, even from those of you that will not be there, and I appreciate the due consideration the board is giving this. The public input opportunity is very important, and as Jessica just mentioned there, sending out an email 30 minutes before today's board meeting announcing one midday session tomorrow or one midday session next week, and then one evening session is at an incredibly busy time of the year in the holiday season. Certainly seems, if someone were trying to minimize the public input taken, that would be hard pressed to find a more effective way to do that. So I certainly hope there will be further dialogues, perhaps even some in-person sessions, to really have a constructive discussion about what shape this program is going to take. Understanding that what was discussed with the operations committee a few weeks ago was just a first proposal. That first proposal is does seem woefully inadequate to provide service to people to participate fully in their community. As was mentioned, if it's actually cut to 30 rides, that would make it impossible for people to, people cannot commute on a regular basis using the program. If someone was working full time and was a single parent and had to make multiple stops, forget it, they'd be out of trips in a week and a half through the month. The possible changes to the boundaries and the operating hours could it put a whole new burden either on the staff that's already having to manually deal with different issues with the program, or possibly transfer that burden onto consumers and again make it just continues to make the service less and less efficient to use. I know some of the board members commented at the operations committee meeting that you haven't really received the detailed financial backup to support these decisions to enable you to make really educated calculations about alternatives to what's initially been proposed. I really think that information needs to be provided more clearly than these summaries that have been part of the proposals. And last, I sometimes feel like I'm beating a dead horse on the multi-stop issue. I've been talking about that for several months. Nothing brought home the importance of that more clearly than that storm last month, because what could have been a 10-minute round trip for me taking my little one to school turned into an hour and a half of standing in the snow, enduring cancellation after cancellation after cancellation just to get the return trip home. I really would encourage the board to find a way to restore that capability as well, even though staff has stayed silent on the possibility of that through this entire process. I appreciate the time, and thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and for joining us this evening. I'm going to go to Curtis number 3, please.
Hello, I'm Curtis number 3. My name is Maureen Neatfeld, and I am second vice president of the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado, and I'm also director of student services at the Colorado Center for the Blind. I am a blind person who lives with multiple disabilities and is very dependent on the Access on Demand program. Fixed routes are not an option for someone like me, and this has allowed me to maintain my career as well as many, many volunteer hours. I'm also a parent of a 6-year-old child. So gutting this program to 30 rides within that 3/4 of a mile boundary is just incredibly detrimental to so many of us that really depend on this service. And of course, I agree with Jessica, Nate, and Trent, my colleagues, and I just want to second all of what they are saying. And also, I just want to say how incredibly disappointing it was to open my email up 30 minutes before this meeting to see 2 options for listening sessions next week, which I think all of us could probably tell you how busy our calendars are literally every day until the new year, that this is when it was decided to have these listening sessions. And on an issue that is as important as this, to do something like that felt like my population and my community of blind and disabled people are, maybe we're just being viewed as we're just not that busy. We have plenty of time to just jump on a call next week. And that's not the case. So it feels, I actually feel like it was ableist actually to send something like that. And I know that feels strong, but that's how I felt reading that. And I think that a lot of people would agree with that in our community, seeing something like that. So thank you for hearing my comments. I also just want to thank the outgoing board members and also Tom. It was very touching to hear how you just really honored him tonight, and I really appreciated that, and I enjoyed that. And I'm pretty sure that it was Tom that reached out to us at the Colorado Center for the Blind when the talking stops were being implemented in the bus and asked us as blind people what we wanted to hear. And that is true collaboration, and I just want to thank Tom publicly for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and for joining us. Now move to our 4th and final Curtis, please. Do we have another individual signed up under Curtis Chung that would like to unmute themselves and speak? Mr. Kroll, do you seeing still another?
Excuse me?
Yes, we
Fitzstone,
can.
thank you.
Thank you. We can hear you now. Please go
Yeah,
ahead.
my name's Fitzstone. I'm a employee for the Colorado Center for the Blind. I'm also on the Denver chapter board. And I use this service every day to get to work, and 30 rides would just not be enough. So I don't want to speak too long, and I do echo everything all my colleagues said. And, I just want to impress how important this service is to me, and being able to get to work and do things with my family and volunteer and, all the activities I do every month. So I look forward to being in more of these meetings, and I want to thank all the incoming and outgoing board members for all your service, and just thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us and for your comments. Mr. Kroll, I'll hand back off to you. If you could please call our next speaker. And for our next speaker, once you hear your name, you will be recognized to unmute yourself and speak for 3 minutes. Mr. Kroll?
Yes, Chair Davidson. The next speaker we have is Ian Frash.
Hello, I'm Ian Frash. You may remember me from the last meeting. I live in the Wash Park West neighborhood, and I want to continue to push for better pedestrian access to I-25 and Broadway Station from Ohio Ave, which is the closest street to the station. And a little update on that I-25 and Broadway project. They did pave the new pathway that Dottie did as an alternative to the desired pathway that cuts through the parking lot under the new ramp. They paved that, so that one's there to stay, but it does feel like we really should have this shortcut path through the RTD parking lot. It's just such a short distance, and it feels like all we need is a little curb cut into that parking lot, and then just a little pathway in between the parking spots, going under the ramp, taking you right to the station. There was a response from RTD after I brought this up last time, a letter from General Manager Deborah Johnson, basically continuing to say that RTD blocked this path from Ohio Ave that was kind of shortcuts through the parking lot for safety reasons, because there would be conflicts between automobiles and pedestrians. Pedestrians would be required to cross a busy bus movement area to reach the station. And I have some issues with that response. I mean, the biggest one is, if this is a parking lot and parking motorists are going to be walking that route anyway, why is it okay and safe for them to walk it, but unsafe for local neighbors trying to walk or roll to the station? And then also, the alternative path crosses the new highway ramp. Well, how is that safer than cutting through an RTD parking lot, which those are all over the place at RTD stations? That's not really a safety concern. Walking through parking lots, like, everybody's used to that. And there's already a path from the tunnel under the new ramp to the station. It's already there with curb ramps and everything. And I stood there and I walked back and forth during like 5 p.m. rush, and it doesn't feel unsafe. There's very low traffic because it's just kind of occasional bus going by. So it doesn't make sense to me to keep saying this is an unsafe pathway. And I do think it should be in RTD's best interest to prioritize fast, convenient pedestrian access from the closest homes to the stations in order to maximize ridership. I don't think they should be focusing solely on park and ride access and just ignoring everything else. I think this is really low-hanging fruit, and I hope that RTD will reconsider and just add a little pathway through that parking lot, and perhaps the new board members will continue to try to push for that.
Ian, I'm sorry to interrupt, that we're over 3 minutes. If you would just take a few seconds to wrap up your comments, please.
Well, that was it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for sharing your comments with the board. Mr. Jack Kroll, do we have another speaker in the queue?
Chair Davidson, at this time, I see no further speakers in the queue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kroll. For the sake of the record, could you please note any comments that were emailed to the board for today's meeting?
Yes, we received 2 letters in advance of this evening's meeting, which were distributed to you all. Both were from Greater Denver Transit. One was simply a final end-of-the-year message, and the other was a letter that contained a number of questions related to the 2025 budget. And that letter received a prompt response from staff that was also distributed to the board as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kroll, for reading that into the record. With no other participants in the queue and seeing no other hands raised at this time, we will close the public participation period. I'd like to thank everybody, as always, for taking time to attend and share your comments with this board. While we don't offer comments during this period, we do hear them, and we thank you for your advocacy. At this time, we will move to the external entities report. This evening, we do have 2 updates from external entities. The first will be from the Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities. And Mr. Earl Lee is present to share an update. So with that, Mr. Lee, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Chair Davidson. On November 12th of this year, a joint meeting of the ACPD and APAC committees was held virtually. The meeting included members of both the ACPD and the APAC committees, along with ex officio members, RTD staff, and members of the public. The first part of the meeting, Joshua Kaufman, the ADA coordinator for the University of Denver, stated that his office is conducting an accessibility review of the campus and that they have found several barriers to public transportation for people with disabilities. When asked to describe the barriers, he described deep curb cuts, damaged sidewalks, and poor snow removal. ACPD Chair Earl Lee explained that RTD is only responsible for maintaining property that they own. Julie Jennings suggested Mr. Kaufman contact the City of Denver Disability Rights Division for assistance. Mr. Kaufman then asked if RTD's area of responsibility includes access around the bus stop. Gabe Christie, ADA manager for RTD, further defined RTD area of responsibility to the pole in the ground. Christina Erickson explained the issues Joshua Kaufman brought up would be under the jurisdiction of Denver's Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. Mr. Lee then brought forward his reliance on the accuracy of the Access-a-Ride tracking app on his phone and the 10-minute notification call to assure his ability to maximize his personal time and assure his ability to maximize his personal time and assure that he is at the pickup location without any delays. Recently, he's noticed that the ETA indicated in the app may show a time such as 40 minutes away, then only moments later, 5 minutes away, causing him to rush to meet the vehicle that doesn't show up for 10 or 15 minutes. The notification calls that are supposed to be approximately 10 minutes may not happen until Mr. Lee is on board and has left the location. No real explanation was available or was given to Mr. Lee during this time, other than the drivers may not be clearing their previous call until they are en route to the new location. The other point that Mr. Lee brought up at this time was a recent trip where he was picked up in Littleton on a trip bound for Arvada, was on board the Access-a-Ride bus for a little over 2 hours as he took a ride to Aurora, past the Aurora Mall, before turning around and going back to Arvada, which seems a little bit of a long time to be on board. And he brought up the concern for both passengers and drivers as being an awful long time to be on board when someone may need to take a restroom break or something like that. So it was mentioned in the meeting that time on board is one of the issues that is being looked at. So that will be handled in the future. Joe Beaver, ex officio member, attempted to use a Wave vehicle to book a ride and was told that no vehicles were available. He attempted three times and continued to get the same response that there were no vehicles available. He eventually booked an Access-a-Ride call and was charged full price where he should have been charged a reduced fare. Through some questioning, it became apparent that he may not have properly registered himself. And so that particular situation, he was going to follow up with the Access-a-Ride people and determine whether he is in fact registered properly. So I believe that one is going to be resolved. Gabe Christie, again, the ADA manager, described the ACPD work plan. The ACPD committee is being restructured a little bit in how it's going to operate. And in 2025, there are going to be some goals set. One of those goals is going to be set by the by the steering committee, by the ACPD steering committee, and the members are going to now sign up for particular tasks and are going to be responsible for fulfilling those tasks throughout the year. This way they will take in, they will have more input, and I think it will make a much more productive committee. I look forward to seeing that. One of the tasks that we're going to be looking at is the renaming of Civic Center Station, also the 35th anniversary of ADA, and the downtown rail construction, and some of the possibilities of whether the new ProWag regulations will be affected, will affect that that upgrade down there. The trail expansion on the W line, Joe Beaver, again, ex officio member, stated that a fence has been erected on the trail between the Oak Station and the Everett Court in Lakewood, which blocks his most direct route to the station. Greg Martinez asked in the chat whether it was temporary maintenance or other project affecting the area. Then the facilities team is going to look at that. And the Ann Hilliard Award for Integrity, Gabe Christie explained that the Ann Hilliard Award for Integrity, previously named ADA Heroes Award, was given to employees who went above and beyond service to customers with disabilities. With disabilities. The award has been renamed for a former ADA investigator specialist who was passionate. After working the ADA office for 4 years, she passed away from cancer in 2021. The award now honors employees who show the same integrity and commitment to accessibility. Gabe then described the commendations for the first 4 awardees who were selected in conjunction with Mr. Lee, ACPD chair. They are Al Espinola, Felipe Munoz Ramos, Josie Mitchell, and Justin Holman. These awardees will receive a certificate and will be identified and honored at the upcoming board meetings. At that point, ACPD's portion of the meeting was concluded, and it was turned over to the APAC for their portion of the meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Earl Lee, for joining us and for your detailed report. Next, we will move to an update from our Access-a-Ride and Paratransit Advisory Committee. And Ms. Julie Jennings has joined us to present her report. Ms. Jennings, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I'm Julie Jennings with the Access-a-Ride Paratransit Committee, November 12th summary. We received a few updates, introduction of 2 new APAC members, Richard Martinez and Robert Morris. Also, retesting of the QRide web portal is still underway. QRide is working to resolve functionality issues and make further improvements. The testing and resolutions should be completed soon. We had some discussion with Fred Worthen, the Assistant General Manager of Bus Operations. He provided an overview of the engagement work since the peer review report. And I believe you've received the same overview. That completes my summary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jennings, for joining us as always, and thank you for your continued work. That concludes our external entities portion of our agenda. We'll now move to our committee reports. We'll start with the Audit Committee. I'd like to just note, for clarity and sake of the record, that sadly, although he's joined us this evening, former Director Deschel did have to resign early from the board due to a move and relocation, although is still serving on the Audit Committee. But given that he is not here, I will hand the floor off to First Vice Chair Catlin to share whether she has anything to share from the Audit Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Audit Committee did meet on Thursday, November 14th. It was chaired by Director Deschel, and we will miss him, but we're fortunate that he agreed to stay on for the extra year for the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee is recommending to the full board for tonight's meeting for the appointment of Director Vince Busick to the committee, and you'll be considering that tonight, but I'm really pleased that Director Busick did step up to serve on that committee. There was an internal audit update presented by Matt Marino, Chief Audit Executive from Reuben Brown, and Doug McLeod, our Chief Financial Officer. And basically, most of the audits that were scheduled to be completed this year were completed, and a full report was given on the safety audit that was completed this year, as well as an audit on Denver Transit Partners as a contractor. So those were completed audits and should be available for directors to review. And then there was also a discussion about the internal audit function review and where we were. There will be a 2025 enterprise risk assessment conducted to then determine the program going forward. And there also will be an updated schedule discussed because we wanted to provide a little bit more regular cadence to the Audit Committee meetings so that we can anticipate when those will be held. So the next meeting will be held in February of 2025. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Catlin, for the report, and thank you to both you and Director Deschel for all the work on that. And thanks to the board and staff for leaning into still relatively new, but ever-improving audit process. Next, move to our Finance and Planning Committee report. Committee Chair Tisdale, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. If only because the opportunity is presented, do I take this opportunity to speak. Anything that we covered in the Finance and Planning Committee meeting is on our agenda this evening. So other than being a very wonderful last meeting that I will chair for the Finance and Planning Committee, we have nothing further to report at this time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Committee Chair Tisdale, and thank you for leading that committee this year. Very much appreciated. Next, move to our Operations Safety and Security Committee report. Committee Chair Whitmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two items on the agenda tonight that were discussed at our Wednesday, November 13th meeting, so I won't go into those in any great length, except to say that the Title VI Service Equity Analysis was passed unanimously, and it's on the unanimous consent agenda tonight. And also, very importantly, the January 25 service change document was approved by a majority of the members of the committee, and that will be considered in a few minutes later tonight. We did have four discussion items that were very thorough and a really important update in a number of facets. The first one was our HR update, our people power situation, and things are trending definitely in the right direction. We also had a Transit Police Department update by our co-chiefs, which was very informative. An update on facilities and fleet transition plan, which is very exciting and really gave us a comprehensive picture of our future planning needs for obviously vehicles and the facilities that we utilize to service and repair them. And finally, a paratransit peer review final report, topic of discussion by the general public in a number of meetings, including tonight. And that was a report and then outline of our next steps in that process. Next meeting will happen in January. I don't believe we have the date yet, but we will soon. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Committee Chair Whitmore, and thank you very much for your leadership of that committee throughout this year as well. Next, we'll move to the Performance Committee, and I'll ask if Committee Chair Catlin would like to share anything.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Performance Committee met twice in November. The first meeting was Monday, November 11th, at which time we convened an executive session. And then we met once again Thursday, November 21st. And at that particular meeting, we passed the recommended action for the Board of Directors to approve General Manager and CEO Deborah Johnson's performance appraisal for the 2024 calendar year performance cycle. And in connection to that, approve a 4.86% increase to the GM CEO's current annual base salary. That will come before, even though it passed unanimously, that will come before the board this evening. And the next meeting date was tentatively scheduled for yesterday, but that had been postponed until December 10th, but we're still trying to work out some logistics for that meeting, so stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, Committee Chair Catlin, and thank you for your leadership of the Performance Committee this year. Always a busy time at the end of the year, so thank you for your leadership. At this time, we'll move to the approval of our board meeting minutes and committee reports. The board and committee minutes were included in the board packet. Are there any corrections from directors for the minutes to be approved this evening? Okay, not seeing any. Unless there's any objection to considering the minutes all at the same time, I will entertain a motion in a moment to approve the minutes for the following meetings. October 22nd, 2024 special board meeting, October 22nd, 2024 board meeting, November 6th, 2024 special board meeting, November 11th, 2024 performance committee, November 12th, 2024 finance and planning committee, November 13th, 2024 operations, safety and security committee, November 14th, 2024 Audit Committee, November 18th, 2024 Special Board Meeting, November 21st, 2024 Performance Committee, and finally, November 21st, 2024 Executive Committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I heard Whitmore as the movement and second as Tisdale. Any discussion? Seeing none, are there any no votes? Seeing none, that will pass with 14 yes votes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions. This time, we'll move to the chair's report. This is my final chair's report, my final regular board meeting as your board chair and as a director on the RTD Board of Directors. So I'd like to make a few closing remarks in my time here, but before I do, I will go ahead and note, as I have been doing, several updates for the agency to call attention to the public and board on. First and foremost, I do want to note that as of September 2024's audited financials, RTD's year-to-date sales and use tax revenue was at $633.3 million. That now puts our sales and use tax revenue 8% below budget. This is a gap that has been steadily growing. You'll recall that as of August, we were 7.6 below, 7.6% that is. June and July were both 6.7% below sales and use tax budget. May was 5.8% below, and so on. I encourage the board and the agency to watch this trend very carefully on consumer spending as you move into the new year, and as we see that data points are now beginning to form a trend. Given that we do have a notable favorable variance on the operating expenses portion of our budget, RTD does remain in a strong net position and does forecast continued strength in its net position through the remainder of this year, next year, and into the 5-year financial plan. So I simply call attention to this so that as the board, as we consider our 5-year financial plan, as we do when we enter that phase next year, and as we consider the fiscal year 2026 budget next year, we keep a vigilant eye on consumer spending trends, given that we do have a bit of a trend line forming there. Ridership this year has remained below budget as of September 2024, but does remain up from 2023. We are 1.2% up year to date over 2023. In the board packet, first of all, I'd just like to commend staff and thank them for the customer and community engagement report for January through October 2024 that appears on page 293 of the board briefing document for anyone who is interested. We've continued to add data into our customer and community engagements and present that to the board in a way that helps us understand exactly what the engagements have been and what the nature of those are and the type of feedback that we're receiving. That then helps augment our survey data to look at key drivers and help us really consolidate information that we receive from the public. And as I noted before, we thank the public for being generous with comments and offering those and advocating, and I thank staff for working to bring a data-driven approach to collecting those comments and presenting them. Bus operations in September 2024 had a service availability of 99.75% and on-time performance of 79.29%. As the light rail slow zones improve, light rail operations in September 2024 did see some improvement from what, as we all know, was a difficult summer. The on-time performance was at 63.69%, which had come up from the 50s in the prior months and most recently 59 in August. Continued recovery of that on-time performance is anticipated. As I have continued to say, I thank our teams out in the field for working hard to ease that burden and work through that maintenance. And most of all, I thank our customers for continued resilience and patience as we all work collectively to make sure that we're taking care of this transit system for future generations. Commuter rail operations in September 2024 remained strong and consistent with service availability over 99% and on-time performance of the A, B, and G lines at 95.97 and the N line at 97.99%. Before I offer some concluding remarks, I'd also just like to note and thank the public for their faith and trust in the agency in voting yes on 7A. I'd like to thank Second Vice Chair Geisinger in particular for her leadership last year and into this year of making this a very important issue. I think those of us that have served on the board know it's hard to get a lot done. You have to really focus proactively on the things that are most important to get done. And across staff, across the board, we did a lot of work to really understand what we were facing. And it is up to us to live up to what the voters have entrusted us with. We take that very seriously and give a very hearty thank you to all those in the public who helped us with 7A and trusting us with retaining those funds. So this is my last meeting, regularly scheduled board meeting as a board director, and I'd like to offer a few words. So being an RTD director is a public service role. This is about serving the public, about working for our neighbors to ensure that we have a safe, accessible, reliable transit system. And it's a privilege to serve in that role, and it's never really about us as directors. But given that this is my last meeting, given that I'm not often personal in public meetings, I'd like to offer a couple personal words, because indeed this does have an immensely personal aspect to it. This has been and will always be a highlight of my life, having had the opportunity to work with my colleagues here, to work with RTD staff, and to serve my neighbors on this board of directors. I love this region, I love RTD, and I have found it personally immensely gratifying and challenging in a good way that just adds to that gratification serving. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I thank the members of the public who trusted me, along with my colleagues here, to govern this agency. It may be a bit cliche, and some of my colleagues know this, including one former director who happens to be here. I have long and always admired Fred Rogers of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I have found particular comfort over the years in something that Fred Rogers' mother, Nancy, has said to him that became a common phrase over the past couple years, I think thanks to a documentary. She told him to, quote, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping." Perhaps one of the most rewarding aspects that I have benefited from in serving this role is meeting a lot of helpers along the way. Just within RTD, helpers are in abundance. From the folks who operate our services, buses, trains, paratransit vehicles, to the folks who make sure those vehicles operate safely, comfortably, and in a welcome way, to the folks who ensure that we are secure and safe, to many public servants who work at Blake Street here that no one will ever see or hear their names. There are literally thousands of helpers working at RTD. In the community, one thing I've gotten to learn and see and experience that has been personally rewarding, there are even more. From advocacy groups, neighborhood groups, community groups, members of the public who step up and take time out of their lives to offer time and knowledge and expertise to try to make public services better. Our society really depends on that, people taking time out of their lives to choose to be helpers. I also want to personally thank, and certainly for the board, I'll speak for the board and the agency, but personally thank, and I'll use first names this evening, Jack, Marie, Jillian, Taishrei. The four of you have done, I've gotten to watch your work up close and leaned on you very, very heavily for that. You sit over there meeting after meeting and are always here. Yes, thank you. Jack, Marie, Jillian, Taishrei, you are the epitome of helpers, and you do so much more than anyone can see. And that is true of so many roles at RTD. I just have the benefit of being especially close and in close proximity up in the office to the four of you. Tonight is also the final board meeting for a number of my fellow directors. Director Broom, Director Sloan, Director Lewis, Director Tisdale, Director Rosenthal. Additionally, Director Deschelle, who had to resign just a little bit early. And of course, earlier this year, we had to part ways with Director Williams when she also resigned. And we thank her for joining us. To those of you that are leaving, and to all of you that remain on the board, and to all of you that have chosen to step up and serve on this board, thank you for all of the times that you have worked and strived to be helpers. That too has been gratifying. And I said I'll make some personal notes. Just a few months after joining this board, I had some pretty tough personal things hit me. And I had a lot of support and a lot of help from my colleagues here, who I had only known for a matter of weeks. That includes staff, that includes board. I simply cannot thank you enough for that. I wish this agency nothing but the best, the public nothing but the best for this transit system that we depend on, that we use, that we invest in. And I am willing to help in any way that I can, and I hope that I have done my part to work to be a helper to this agency in my time here. I have to conclude on another personal note. It is not always obvious that public service in this type of role is a family commitment. It is very much a family affair. So, if she's watching, I would like to thank my lovely wife, Anastasia, for her tremendous support in being a true partner in all of this, in serving the public, in serving our neighbors, and working to try to leave this region just a little bit better than we found it for those that come after us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting this public service role. I leave this role filled with hope. I leave it filled with tremendous gratitude. And I thank all of you for being a part of that story that I will take with me for the rest of my life. It was not an easy decision to not be here starting in January. And with that, that'll conclude my chair's report. And I would like to hand off to our general manager, Deborah Johnson, and just say it has been a privilege to work with you as well. This has been a challenging year, as has been noted many times. I'm someone who values patience, resilience, calmness, and focus, and it has been tremendously rewarding and helpful to have a partner in that is managing the staff. Many on the team, and too many to name and thank, but some of you are in this room have been tremendous helpers as well. So I will hand off to our general manager, Deborah Johnson. I do see a hand up, so happy to call before going to our general manager's report. Director Ruscia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gotcha. So we traditionally, because we have a rolling board, we traditionally do the goodbyes in January. Did you say that you wouldn't be here for the January meeting? And would it be permissible for you to not call me out of order? And if anybody wants to share anything, can we take a minute because we won't have that in January?
I will not be on the board in January, but I will do my very best to be here for that tradition. So
But
just, yeah.
Well, you're on the board until your replacement this morning, so I guess I was just asking, will you not be at the meeting in January?
Yeah, point well taken.
Okay.
I will be there.
Okay, so we can, all right, I just wanted to make sure that we had that opportunity.
Thank
sir.
you. Yeah, thank you for the clarification. So with that, thank you very much, former Director Williams. That was indeed more than 3 minutes. And thank you for taking the time to allow me, and thank you for the applause. It means more to me than I can say. Again, tremendous gratitude. General Manager and CEO Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thank you very kindly, Chair Davidson, and good evening once again to you, board members, and to all who are assembled both in this room and virtually. I am Deborah Johnson, as introduced, RTD's General Manager and Chief Executive Officer. This evening, I will share with you just a few highlights of activities and strategic endeavors since the most recently held board meeting on Tuesday, October 22nd. I will do that, as I noted, in relationship to our strategic priorities and related to community value. On October 23rd, 2024, I, along with Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, staff being specific to Michael Davies, our Government Relations Officer, and representatives from the Colorado Department of Transportation, as well as Denver's Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, we had the opportunity to join U.S. Deputy Secretary of Transportation Polly Trottenberg on a tour of the Denver region. Deputy Secretary Trottenberg's tour of the city included visits to sites that had been the focus of public and private transportation and transit investments, such as the surrounding area of Denver Union Station, that really showcases great public-private partnership, the future of the Colfax Bus Rapid Transit Corridor, and the Federal Colfax Interchange. I am pleased to report that just yesterday, on December 2nd, the solicitation for the next phases of the downtown rail reconstruction project was announced and also was included in RTD's procurement portal for public review. As the board will recall, the first phase of the downtown rail reconstruction project began in May of 2024 and focused on the 30-year-old infrastructure at 5 key intersections of the downtown loop. The full-depth reconstruction project involved removing existing rail, concrete ties, and ballast before rebuilding the embedded track along RTD's inaugural light rail line that opened October 7th in 1994. The first phase was completed ahead of schedule in September, and RTD is now seeking proposals for the remaining 3 phases of the project. To complete the remaining reconstruction work, which will resume in 2025, RTD will use a progressive design-build project delivery approach. This approach is a project delivery method that combines the benefits of early contractor involvement with the design-build model. This 2-phase process involves the owner, being RTD, of course, and the design-build team working together to develop a final design, schedule, and budget, and will accelerate the project schedule and minimize their overall impacts to the customers and the community. The solicitation process will result in a single contract being awarded for both a project designer and a construction contractor. Commencing in 2025, we anticipate, because recognizing we don't know what we don't know, right? So commencing in 2025, work on each phase may occur simultaneously. Phase 2 will address mid-block rail reconstruction in the downtown loop. Phase 3 will involve reconstruction efforts along the Colfax alignment, and Phase 4 will address the Welton Street corridor. Similar to Phase 1 in 2024, all D&H lines will be rerouted to Denver Union Station during the reconstruction work, and L-line service, which connects 30th and Downing Station to the downtown loop, will be temporarily suspended. No light rail service will operate in RTD's central corridor until the reconstruction project has been fully completed. Similar to Phase 1 of the project, ahead of the project commencing, RTD will launch a comprehensive marketing, outreach, and communications campaign to ensure customers and the public are aware of the reconstruction project, as well as impacts to transit services. Just as we did previously, we will keep this body apprised as we go forward with the project on a regular basis, more than likely monthly when we commence with activities, and recognizing the gravity of the award that would come before this board for its consideration. Some other good news that we have relative to our Small Business Opportunity Office, our teammates have implemented a software solution known as B2G Now. It is a software solution that has been used for, I would say, several years, one of which I'm familiar with, and our team did some due diligence in reference to leveraging this. And why we're so excited about this, it will enhance outreach efforts, identifying potential bidders or proposers on procurements for which a disadvantaged business enterprise or a small business enterprise goal has been set. In relation to our strategic priority of community value, the platform allows the small business opportunity team to post contracting opportunities and immediately notify SBEs or DBE firms. B2G Now will be used as the main portal for vendors, which we call primes, when DBE or SB goals have been set, to report payments to DBE and SBE firms in an accurate and efficient manner. The SBAO office will also use B2G Now as RTD's SBE certification portal and database. I do want to note that RTD, along with CDOT and the City and County of Denver, are entities that have been identified to certify the firms that I've outlined that have the classification of a DBE or an SBE. And so through those applications to SBO and current certified firms can submit necessary annual documentation required to remain in the certification program. So the SBO team anticipates the software to be available to all vendors by the end of the month. Related to customer excellence, RTD is gearing up to close out the year by supporting and participating in major holiday events in the Denver metro area. Grand Illumination just took place on November 29th. The annual Grand Illumination event took place on the plaza of Denver's Union Station Historic Building. The event featured family-friendly entertainment, including classic holiday hits, a visit from Santa and Mrs. Claus, and a grand lighting of the event of the station's outdoor 40-foot-tall Christmas tree with more than 7,000 holiday lights. Secretary Michael Guzman, who represents that area of his district, joined other local leaders in delivering remarks. RTD unveiled its 2024 Winter Parade bus during the event, and several employees volunteered to pass out holiday treats such as candy canes and commemorative holiday ornaments to attendees. This coming Saturday, December 7th, RTD will once again have a presence in the annual Parade of Lights, where the Winter Parade bus will make another appearance. To accommodate the annual parade, detours and other service adjustments to several bus routes and rail lines are being coordinated with the event organizers. D&H line trains will not operate north of Theater District Convention Center Station, and L-Line service will be suspended until Sunday, December 8th at the beginning of revenue service. And once again, RTD's Winter Parade bus will make an appearance. And on New Year's Eve, RTD is once again coordinating with Molson Coors to offer zero fares on all services beginning at 7 p.m. On December 31st through 7 a.m. on January 1st to encourage individuals throughout the region to celebrate responsibly. The agency will again adjust service for New Year Eve events in downtown. And before I go into my last topic that I will provide a briefing on, I too wanted to acknowledge all the contributions of those that comprise this agency. I want to thank our employees who selflessly have given of themselves during a very difficult time. They showed up in the face of adversity, delivering services to the best of their ability. Oftentimes, I think individuals lose sight that we are people in the people business and moving people. Whereas we have feelings, there's emotions, and there's a great sense of pride in reference to what we do. Being a servant leader is something notable, and not everybody is called to serve the public honorably in that vein. Moreover, I would like to thank the members of this body, all of you collectively, and a special note to those that are departing. Chair Davidson, thank you very much for your vigorous leadership, your call to action, your bias to action, as you often say, as it relates to me, because I believe it is mutual. Thank you for showing up and showing out. Thank you, Director Rosenthal, for your service, Director Tisdale, Director Sloan, Director Broom, Director Lewis, Director DeShale, as you noted, who had to depart earlier, and I'd have to give a shout out to my colleague and friend, Director Williams, who worked in partnership to ensure that we could bring into existence Zero Fare for Youth. So with that, thank you all. As I indicated before I conclude the balance of my report, I will speak to RTD's ongoing engagement with the intercity bus carrier Greyhound. For the purposes of this update, I will be using the terms Greyhound and Flix somewhat interchangeably to collectively refer to the intercity bus service Greyhound and its parent company Flix, which purchased Greyhound from the British transport firm First Group in October of 2021. By way of additional background, pursuant to a license agreement with RTD, Greyhound, along with Burlington Trailways and Black Hills, doing business as Express Aero, have been using specific gates at Denver Union Station's bus concourse since October of 2020, which preceded my tenure with RTD as the GM and CEO. On August 6th, I informed the board via memorandum of my decision to allow RTD's license agreement for Greyhound's use of the Denver Union Station bus concourse to sunset effective August 31st of 2025. Subsequent to the board's notification, my office sent a formal letter on Tuesday, August 13th to Flix, head of facilities and real estate, to confirm that RTD intended the lease agreement to sunset with 365 days advance notice. Actually, it was a little more than that, but close enough. RTD and Flix representatives later met on September 12th to discuss RTD's decision, and RTD and Flix have continued to stay in contact since that time. I, along with members of my team, held a virtual meeting with Kai Boyson, who serves as the CEO of Flix North America, on Tuesday, November 12th. And the following day, Wednesday, November 13th, I called Mr. Boyson to convey RTD's continued commitment to assist in identifying a suitable location on or adjacent to RTD property for Flix Greyhound operations in the Denver metro area, with a focus on providing connectivity to local transit services. At that time, I also committed to consider a temporary extension of Greyhound's access to Denver Union Station, provided that our respective organizations continue to work in good faith to identify such a location expeditiously. Since the November 12th meeting, a cross-matrix team of RTD subject matter experts has continued to collaborate with representatives from Flix, including Mr. Boyson, to discuss Greyhound's operational needs as well as potential locations in the Denver metro area that would offer local transit connections and that could best serve as an alternative terminal location. The teams have held productive meetings on Monday, November 11th, Thursday, November 21st. An additional meeting is occurring later this week. In a call I had with Mr. Boyson just yesterday afternoon, he reaffirmed that this collaborative team approach is his organization's preferred method of engaging on this matter. RTD and Flix continue to engage in that manner, and I am optimistic that the outcome of this ongoing engagement will be mutually beneficial for our representative, or I should say our respective entities. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will conclude my report and welcome any questions from directors at this time.
Thank you very much, General Manager and CEO, and thank you for providing that update on Greyhound and Flix North America. As has come up a couple of times, General Manager and CEO Johnson had agreed to answer any questions the board may have on that topic. So I'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions on the Greyhound and Flix topic that was just addressed, or any matters that are to be asked for the General Manager this evening. Director Lewis, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, as discussed in previous meetings, some of the current board members and some of the board elects are concerned over the issue of the home base for the Greyhound bus system. And as an outgoing board member, I would hope that staff and the board will work collaboratively together, possibly putting a work group together with two directors in 2025 to either keep it in Union Station, look for another RTD asset, or like you said, CEO Johnson, find a mutually agreed alternate location. I just think it's really important that even though Greyhound is not an asset of RTD, I think it's our responsibility to make sure it stays in the metro, especially in the downtown area, to provide people alternative transportation through a multi-state company like Greyhound. And I appreciate the work that your staff has put in, but I would really like to see two board members involved in those discussions in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis, for the comments. Any, Director Ruscia, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to also just echo appreciation for engaging with Greyhound on this matter. I won't repeat what Director Lewis just said, except that I concur. And I had a question for our GM CEO. You'd mentioned a temporary extension of their lease at DUS. Are you able to share with us what that time, more details about that?
General Manager?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Ruscia, for the question. At this juncture, don't know if that will be needed, as we have identified some potential sites collectively and assessing what may be needed. What I have committed to, and I want to state for the record, it is not my intent to, I would say, abort transit or intercity bus service to the Denver metro area. The point of the matter as we go forward is ensuring that that remains. Due to operational incompatibilities, we're trying to find different locations, and it's what we're looking at is something in close proximity that gives access, as I said, to light rail and bus. That could happen before August of 2025. If we get to a point, as I've shared with the CEO, where there's additional time, if they needed to construct a kiosk or things of the like, we would extend contingent upon what that timeline may be. So at this juncture, I can't give you any specificity, but if we needed 3 additional months, that definitely would be something that we are committed to doing, so there could be a smooth transition.
May I?
Please, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So understanding we don't know what we don't know yet, and these conversations are just ongoing. The last update that the board had was that this agreement was to be terminated, which also would have a fiscal impact. And I was wondering if you could share, if anyone knows, if Greyhound does leave DOS, which I am inferring is likely, what that revenue loss would be.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes, thank you. I don't have that information at the ready. I do know they pay us a monthly fee as we go forward, recognizing that more than likely we would be working with them and they could be at another location relative to being on RTD property or in close proximity. I don't necessarily believe we would have a substantial revenue loss going forward, but at this juncture, I can't speculate on what that would be, recognizing that they're going to have people on the ground working in conjunction with our team to identify some areas that may be optimal. That gives them greater flexibility from an operational vantage point if they needed to leave, you know, a bus for a couple hours, whereby in the bus concourse, recognizing the throughput of transit service delivery, that's not conducive to our operations.
Thank you. Just, if I may?
Sure.
So just one more follow-up on the Greyhound, and then I had a question about procurement and our rail reconstruction projects. So, and I honestly don't know. We also have space with Bustang with CDOT, and do they pay what we would call market rate?
Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, I don't have that information. Members of my team deal with that on a more daily basis, but I'd be happy to provide that in a follow-up to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. And then just going back to the comments, I'm sorry, your report regarding the rail reconstruction and progressive design build, I just wanted to say that I'm aware of what that process is. It is very common, including here in the metro area. One concern that I have, and others do who care about these issues, is that there can be, if the contracts or the systems are not in place properly, how do I say this, greater risks for things like labor abuses, like wage theft and OSHA violations and the like. And I was wondering, and we could have a follow-up conversation or memo, if we have as a body, similar to like what the city of Denver does or the state, if we have policies and procedures in place to ensure that we can discourage that illegal behavior, or we can appropriately respond if it's brought to our attention. And again, and that was a big question. We've talked about it a little bit before, but is that something that we could, at least discuss before we sign the contracts.
Most definitely recognizing that we just let the solicitation yesterday. Quite naturally, we have done our due diligence, and that's why we enlisted the help of third-party legal counsel in relationship to various contract provisions and things of the like. As we move forward, we're trying to be deliberate and intentional and be good fiduciaries. So your concerns are noted quite naturally. We both share those as we move forward and are going to be most judicious. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, General Manager. Secretary Guzman, please.
Thank you. The winter bus is gorgeous. I approve, highly approve for all the team members that wrapped it and lit it up and designed it. Thank you. And it was wonderful to see it at the first celebration of the season in District C. Thank you, directors, for discussing a matter that is in my district so that I don't have to discuss it directly, since we are always accused of being too parochial. I want everybody to understand we do work as a team. So thank you for the update with Greyhound and Lynx. I am very interested in following along with that, but also I have a concern about buses getting stuck, not being able to move people through there, people that may be abandoned for any reason because another automobile can't be procured in a timely manner. And so there are some logistical issues that need to be dealt with there. So thank you for taking the lead on that. I appreciate all of your hard work on that and the teams. I have a separate question about the A-line, and this may be better for other matters, so we can suspend conversation until then. But between 38th and Blake and 40th and Colorado, I have received a number of complaints from the public about the horns blaring. And although I understand the reasons why that is happening, I would like to find out, and you may not know, but what is the status of the situation with the sounding of the horns and using ACS automatic control systems versus the positive control system that is not functioning or was not functioning earlier in a communication that I received that needs to be repaired by our concessionaire DTO. Thank you.
General Manager, if you'd like to make a comment on that, feel free. And if it's something that we'd want to follow up on, we could either do that or speak in other matters.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Guzman or Secretary Guzman, for your questions. So as indicated, there were some signaling issues as it related to positive train control. As the board knows, positive train control is required on commuter rail pursuant to Federal Railroad Administration regulations when PTC is not operating properly to ensure the safe movement of a commuter rail consist. One has to, as mandated, sound horns throughout those intersections. In reference to the supplier who provides PTC, which is only one supplier in the entire country, our concessionaires, Denver Transit Partners operators, have been working with Wabtec and have been communicating with our Assistant General Manager of Rail Operations that have kept me apprised as we've gone forward. I don't have at this juncture the response. I could look at my phone. I'm going to do that, but I can circle back in other matters as it relates to where we are. But that was causing the delay. And as you know, adhering to federal regulations, we will always err on the side of caution as it relates to that. But I will say publicly that our concessionaire partners have been very responsible and engaging as it relates to this matter, and have been keeping us apprised of the progress that has been made as they have tried to identify the issue that prompted the problem with the signaling system. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager. And Director Harwick, please.
This is just a piggyback off of Director Guzman. So the G line was also affected by these issues. And when I say this, I'm sure the answer is no, but I'm just going to ask anyhow. So when we know there's an issue, and when DTO knows there's an issue, and I understand that by federal regulations, they have to sound the horns. I get all this, but I also get texts from my neighbors that have decibel meters on their phones or devices that put this like not above the level, but like in the hundreds. And I think they can go up to like 107 or 112. I can't remember right now off the top of my head. But if we know there's an issue, is there a reason the DTO has to go as aggressive as they're going? Can they do a smaller, lighter tap? And I know that that sounds a little bit ridiculous, but also these people, I understand that they're not necessarily our customers, but they're living through this. And when we know there's an issue, I just don't know why we have to go all the way down.
General Manager, any follow-up you have to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director Harwick, as he phrased his question. As we think about the importance of safety and sounding of the horn from a safety measure, I would say in past experience, some of the times the sound could reverberate, as we know. I can't speak to the decibel reading at this juncture, but we can circle back under other matters as we indicated. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll circle back on that item. Thank you for the questions, comments. Okay, not seeing any other questions. GMCO Johnson, thank you for your report. As always, thank you for the work, as always as well. With that, the next portion of our agenda is the public hearing for the 2025 budget, but I'd first like to call for a brief break. That hearing will start with a public comment section, so thank you for being patient, those that have joined us to speak on that matter. We are going to take a break as of 7:22. Let's do 10 minutes. I'd like to get our seats by 7:32, and we will start with the public hearings. 7:32, please. Thank you. I got clarity. So, but anyway, I'm still.
How can we ever hope to run our buses?
All right, everybody, if you could go ahead and grab your seats, we're gonna pick this back up. All right, grab your seats, everyone. Grab your seats, everyone. All right, we are going to go ahead and resume. All right, thanks, everybody. For the sake of the record, this is Chair Eric Davidson speaking. We just took a brief break. We are reconvened as of 7:34 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and we're moving to the public hearing for our 2025 budget. This public hearing, so I'll go ahead and call the hearing to order. Ladies and gentlemen, the chair hereby calls you to order the public hearing on the Regional Transportation District's proposed budget for the year 2025. In accordance with both RTD's requirements and local government statutes, notice of the public hearing was duly posted in the office of the Executive Manager to the Board of Directors. The notice was published in 2 major daily newspapers of the district prior to this meeting and on the RTD website. The public hearing will be conducted under the process that the board uses for its regular public comment section. I would like to point out that the testimony will be limited to the subject of the public hearing, and presentations of testimony should be no longer than 3 minutes. Written testimony should be emailed to the board office at the email address that has been noted many times, rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com, for distribution to the board. The 2025 proposed budget was included in the electronic packet for the board and public to review and has been posted on the RTD website. Speakers addressing the board should begin their remarks, as we do with public comment, by stating their names, and then they will have up to 3 minutes to provide their comments. I will let you know when that 3 minutes has elapsed. This time, just as we do for public comment, I will start with those who are in person and have signed up to speak first. Then I will move to any of those who had wished to speak that did not sign up, and they can approach the podium, and then we will move to our remote attendees. Our first speaker is James Flatham.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is James Flatham. I'm a transit advocate and E-Line rider. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I also want to briefly congratulate the outgoing directors, and I want to thank you all again for your service. So my comment this evening, I definitely want to start by acknowledging the progress that's been made. I think it's very apparent when you compare this budget to last year's budget, there is significantly more detail on a couple of really critical areas that I think should be acknowledged and appreciated. There are a few other really important areas that I would encourage additional effort be spent to build out a little bit, particularly on the capital projects side of things, between looking for something that resembles a capital investment program book that really actually breaks down itemized pieces of these very, very large projects, notably the downtown light rail reconstruction. We have about $145 million still to be spent. And this is a sum that gets close to an amount of money to be spent on an extension of rail, of new rail. So that's why it's really important. I think there is absolute unanimous agreement among riders that RTD's light rail system needs to be kept in a state of good repair. There is absolutely no disagreement that this work is needed. I think the key questions that are being posed externally, right, is the way that rail is being addressed the only way that it can be addressed efficiently and safely, given the severe experiences that riders on the light rail in the South have been experiencing for the last several months. I myself have been a rider of the E-Line. I have found it to be unworkable for my commute, and my colleagues have been advising me the same. It has been unworkable. Ridership on the E-Line is about a third currently, and as of September of 2024 compared to what it was in September of 2019. And ridership on light rail as a whole is down double digits in September year over year. So what we're seeing right now is we are seeing demand destruction. And when we look at the budget in particular, when the public tries to understand how RTD is prioritizing its addressing of capital expenditures and state of good repair, right, we're looking at transit, any transit agency, right, as a three-legged stool. There's operations, there's maintenance, and in a growing city, there is urgent need for expansion. Right now, there's been a lot of focus on maintenance, rightly so, but there's also operations that need to be done and need to be continued. And it seems to us that we know that there are external entities, external contractors that can come in and do light rail work and at least do rail replacement very quickly. And given the fact that we're months into this project and there is still slow zones, the experience is still radically unreliable, we just must ask, please, if it is possible, to present more information about how these dollars are being spent. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your comments with the board. I will next call on Emma Griffin.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Emma Griffin. In reviewing RTD's budget for 2025, I noticed a lack of any specific line item toward completion of Fast Tracks projects, principally the L line expansion to 38th and Blake. Completing this line will connect historically disadvantaged neighborhoods like Five Points to Rhino, as well as the airport. Opening up the L line to be more than just a, quote, stub to nowhere, as its current unfinished state has been called. We at Greater Denver Transit see a vision for the L line as both a local and regional connector that helps bring much-needed vibrancy, life, and business to communities surrounding downtown Denver. I would echo James' comment that RTD must competently maintain operations, maintenance, and capital expansion if it wishes to maintain and grow its ridership over time, the central aim for any transit agency. GDT appreciates and supports the maintenance of the light rail that has gone on for the past 2 years, but questions the approach taken in attempting to save money by completing these solutions in-house. While hiring third-party contractors may have been more expensive than an in-house solution, it likely would have resulted in a considerably more expedient completion of maintenance, which would have prevented the permanent ridership loss experienced on the E, H, L, D, and R lines. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much for sharing your comments. Next, we have Keith Brooks.
Hello, Keith Brooks. What's one more public comment for the road? I greatly enjoyed reading through the budget. I believe it's 96 pages at this point. We'll be hitting Moby Dick lengths by the end of the decade at this rate. Noticed a few things. I'll try and go over the more trivial ones because they're the ones that maybe actually can be resolved. 43 maintenance vehicles are being replaced, but it's not clear exactly what's being replaced and with what. Woe be me to use a car analogy at the transit meeting, but if you replace a clapped out 98 Toyota Corolla with a new Corvette, that is replacing the vehicle, but it is hardly a one-to-one exchange. And I wanted to see if Maintenance of Way was getting any new toys to maybe help with some of this work. What else is there? 96 pages, that was a lot. So, oh yeah. So we do have the line items for the, let me see if I can get my taxonomy levels right, for the departments, but not for the divisions, which is kind of frustrating when we're trying to look at smaller divisions, departments, you'll see what I mean, like service planning. We have no idea what their budget is, if there's any way to maybe get some more head count with them, as they're currently like the 13 most overworked people in this metro area. Same thing with light rail and operations compared to the N line, our precious little baby that has to be special, and then DTO operations. It's not clear how those are broken up. There's just rail. And then same thing with buses. It's not clear what's RTD operated, and then which of the 3 Transdev contracts are being paid what amount. And going back to DTO, it's not clear, because we know they received 2 payments, one for their capital debt and then one for their operations. It's not clear how that's broken down either. Bus operations, again, are not specific. But none of this addresses the biggest elephant in the room, which is how will you guys possibly spend the billions of dollars of extra tax revenue you're going to get now that the rest of Erie has joined the district? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and for joining us for the public hearing. Is there anyone in attendance here that has not spoken and would like to do so? Please approach the podium. And you'll introduce yourself and have 3 minutes. You know the drill. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Joe, and I would just like to follow up one of Keith's points. Given the large percentage of service at RTD that's operated by other entities via contracts to Transdev or DTO, I think it would be really important for the public documents like the budget to break down the operations expenditures to RTD operated routes and contracts going to third-party agencies so that we can better understand things like cost per service hour and just the bulk amount of money that's going to some of these third-party agencies. For me personally, it would help me better understand what it would cost to get DTO to run 15-minute service on the G line, and those types of little questions would be much easier to answer if we understand to whom how much money is going. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us and for your comments. And our next speaker, please approach, introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Director-elect for District A, Chris Nicholson. And I was beyond delighted when I saw that in this budget there is money to implement open payments, credit card tap to pay, whatever you want to call it, for our fare payment system. I think that for the amount of money that it is allocated in the budget, it will be an incredible step forward for RTD and in the way that the average person who never uses the system interacts with RTD. And so I just want to say thank you to GM CEO Johnson and all the people working for you that that is underway. Secondly, the the significant increase in transit security funding that is in this year's budget is a wonderful step forward in addressing what is the number one concern that I heard on the campaign trail, and that is the perceived, at least, and in some ways actual, lack of security. I know anyway, lack of security on RTD, at the facilities, using the buses. There are so many people in my district who are proximate to transit, who literally live a block away from a bus line, who live right off the 15, and who say that the experience and the fact that they do not feel safe is the reason that they do not use RTD. And so seeing us making a significant investment in that is something that I think the public will view as extremely positive. And I'll tell you guys right now that one of the things I intend to work very hard on over the next 4 years is seeing us deliver the amount of security that will make the public feel safe on RTD. And so I think that, taking this action is wonderful. I hope it to be a very small first step in comparison to what I think we can accomplish over the next 4 years, both with officers and non-police responders, as a way to make the general public see RTD as something that they can be a part of and that is a space that they feel comfortable in. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your comments. Seeing no other in-person speakers, are there any hands raised virtually at this time? Mr. Jack Kroll, our Board Office Executive Manager.
Chair Davidson, at this time, I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. Well, we thank those who have attended to share their comments on the proposed budget. At this time, with no other participants in the queue, we will close the public hearing for the proposed budget. That will move us forward to a recommended action for the board's consideration. This is item A. This is the 2025 proposed budget. It is for the Board of Directors to adopt the resolution series of 2024 for the adoption of the 2025 budget and of 2024 for the 2025 budget appropriation, and series 2024 for the appropriation of 2025 previously appropriated capital. Do I have a motion?
Busick, so moved.
I had Busick as the movant and Tisdale as the second. Is there any discussion or questions on the item? Secretary Guzman, please.
I'll make it quick. It was a lot of work. Thank you so much, staff, for all of the work that you did implementing a new budget booklet. That was a request from last year. Deborah, kudos to your team and everybody involved with Finance and Planning. It was a privilege to serve as Vice Chair of Finance and Planning Committee to shepherd this through with a lot of feedback from directors and from staff. And I feel like we have presented something that is pretty good. There's room for improvement, we know that, but for a first attempt, this is not a bad work to bring to this board. One quick thing I do want to mention is that this board, this agency, the people sitting in these chairs are putting this forward. And so it was very interesting to see all of the different line items that were brought forward and the different projects that are already working and going on, up to and including line items for tap to pay that we are about to make a vote on. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Director Ruscia, please.
Thanks, real quick. Just for the record, I was the second on that, not the movement. Thank you.
Okay, we'll reverse it on the record. I'm sorry. I heard them both hit me in stereo, so thank you for noting it. Director Ruscia, please.
I was actually the second, but that's all right. So there were some comments made by the public that I thought were very prudent, and those of us sitting up here know the answers to a lot of these questions because we've had the privilege of staff memos, conversations with our GMCO, and also our CFO, Mr. McLeod. Wow. Like half the room cleared when we started talking about the budget. So if staff could kind of entertain us, but also just help explain some of these things on the record, I was wondering if someone could address the divisions and departments. That's something I had also asked in committee and privately, and just why we have it outlined the way we do. And then I also had a separate question, but well, I don't know if I'm supposed to ask them all right now, or we.
You can go ahead and ask your first question. Is that
okay? Okay, so it's been brought up in several meetings, and directors also received these complaints, and we've discussed this in committee and such, just real-time communications. And I was wondering if we have anything in next year's fiscal budget to address that, or, and I don't want to ask a leading question, but I will, or if that is something that might be a longer-term endeavor, just given the age of the system and all of the back-end work that technology we're using.
GMCO Johnson?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Director Rusha. I've made a hybrid word. Director Rusha, for your question. I believe you're referencing various forms of how we communicate with customers, be it wayfinding, be it automated stop announcements and things of the like. One thing that's critically important to note as relates to computer-aided dispatch or automatic vehicle locators, what we call CAD AVL, that system provides location data used to enable automatic stop announcements on board vehicles, right? And so we are clearly aware, and as one of the commenters made reference to earlier this evening, he indicated he had been bringing forward this issue since 2018. Well, let's be clear that our CAD AVL, we do have some outdated components. What is contained currently in the budget, more specifically under rail operations, for instance, updates to be made to the devices that will enable better connectivity for communications. Because when you think about an automated, I should say, a train stop announcement, there is communication that takes place through various transmitters and things of the like. And so what is included in the Rail Operations Division operational budget for fiscal year 2025 are monies for given components for aspects that will improve the CAD AVL connectivity, I would say, for real-time announcements relative to the automated aspect of that. That will be done in-house. More specifically, as it relates to the CAD AVL devices within the fiscal year 2025 budget, there's 300 CAD AVL devices that will be addressed in calendar year of 2025. And then as we look at our fiscal year financial forecast, there's further allocations, or I shouldn't say allocations, there's further forecasting as relates for additional modifications to outfit the fleet, because some have warranties that we are going to leverage going forward. So I trust that answers your question.
Thank you, General Manager. Director Rusha?
Yes, thank you so much. And sometimes buried in these documents, it's hard to find the good news. Or, some projects that we do have in the queue. So I just wanted, if there was anything else that CEO Johnson wanted to add, some just other things that we have that might not be as obvious in this budget document in the, in the upcoming year that we'll be engaging in, that these, that we're budgeting for. But because, no public agency gives a budget book, that is several thousand lines. I just wanted to ask if you wanted to address some.
If I can, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
one
please.
thing we will be doing contingent upon the board's consideration of the budget is disseminating information relative to what lies ahead and our achievements and what we endeavor to do in the upcoming year moving forward. That will be public facing as we engage and tell our story. I think that's critically important. I have to tell you, I'm not prepared to go into certain aspects of the budget and talk about those key initiatives. We heard about one that has been in the works for a while, Tap to Pay. That's something that the team, God, Doug, we've been talking about that, I would say, probably since I got here. So that's something that has been in the works for the past like 3+ years, recognizing contracts and things like that, and I don't want to delve too deeply in that as we're working towards that. But that's something that we have heard loudly and clearly, in recognizing that we take in feedback from various constituents groups, i.e. customers, stakeholders, employees, and things of the like. We have been intentional with our strategic initiatives, quite naturally. Customer and community initiatives that have been identified to be a laser-like focus in the upcoming years. That's critically important as we want to enhance the efforts to ensure that there's mechanisms and different ways in which people can get to activity centers. And a lot of that has to do with how we're going to leverage communication as we talk about interactive signage and things along those lines. So that's how I would summarize that without being prepared to go in more detail.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Director Ruscia?
Thank you. So I just wanted to note that last year at this time, I was a no on the budget. And two of us voted no. And speaking for myself, one of the concerns was just some of the lack of information that we were given, the capital carry forward questions, not having a sit book, things like that. I'm a yes today. I'm fully comfortable. I really was the second on that motion. And that is in part because of the work that we've done as an agency in the committee, and also because Mr. McLeod, who I'm going to miss very much when he retires next year, was very patient, as was his team, in getting our questions answered and sitting down with us and going through, whatever it is that we need to go through and update and share information as needed. So I will stop there. I have no more comment. I just want to express my appreciation, and happy to vote yes and go home soon.
Thank you, Director. Other questions? And I hope my colleagues will forgive me that hearing all the at once movement and second can be a little tricky to discern, so thanks for bearing with me. Any further questions on the budget? I just want to make one comment that, certainly the budget book format is appreciated, the amount of information is appreciated, and very grateful to staff for that. Over the course of a couple meetings, some more substantive things have been noted. However, what I'm most grateful for here is that we've made progress, measurable progress on the budget itself. And again, would like to thank our Chief Financial Officer and his team and our General Manager and CEO for the progress in that direction to the way in which we budget, which may not be immediately apparent and obvious, but is going to show up in our budget variance over time, and would like to thank them again for bringing and elevating that metric as something we'll be reporting on. The often cited now capital carry forward, the progress that has been made in that area of the budget has been substantial over the past couple of years. Things can be tough and challenging, but getting better. Those two things can be happening at the same time. So really appreciate what's being done there. From a board perspective, the movement from kind of what was historically, what can I have by department, to what is needed to accomplish our mission. That focus is apparent, not just in the format, but in the numbers themselves, which is reflective, even if we rewind a little bit to things such as being in a position now where our midterm financial, which was 6 years, now 5 years, is showing Fast Track's in a more stable position, just as another example of where the numbers are. So thank you for the continued work in that area. and would be remiss if I didn't note for the record that, yes, the format is good, but also the numbers even better. So thank you. Seeing no further questions or discussion, I will call for the vote. Are there any no votes? Seeing none, that will pass with 14 yes votes and 0 no, 0 abstentions. All right, thank you. Busy agenda ahead. Thanks for bearing with us here, everybody. We'll now move to our unanimous consent portion of the agenda. There are 4 items on the unanimous consent agenda. They are listed as actions B, C, D, and E, given that we just did proceed with A, the proposed budget. Those items are item B, 0 fares on Transit Equity Day 2025. Item C, salaried trustee appointment. Item D, January 2025 Title VI Service Equity Analysis. Item E, 2024 GM CEO Performance Appraisal and related compensation change. It is important to note that item E, the 2024 GM CEO Performance Appraisal and related compensation change, came out of the November 21st Performance Committee meeting that was held directly prior to the November 21st Executive Committee meeting and was unanimously approved by that committee. It's also important to note that according to our bylaws, all those items that do pass through Executive Committee, even if unanimous, do not appear on the unanimous consent agenda, but rather are on our recommended actions portion. If anyone has a change to, discussion on, or question about any of the items on the unanimous consent, please advise me at this time, and I will, of course, be happy to pull it from the unanimous consent agenda for consideration under recommended action. Would anyone like to remove anything from unanimous consent? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Lewis.
All right. So I'm going to just... Winner. Sorry, Busick. I'm going to go with what I heard, and it may just be a proximity. I heard Director Ruscia as the movant and the second as Director Catlin. Are there any no votes? Seeing none, that will pass with 14 yes votes, 0 no, 0 abstention. Thank you very much. All right, folks, we're going to recommended actions. We have 7 on the agenda listed as F, G, H, I, J, K, and all the way to L. So the first action, item F, is for the January 2025 service change. This is for the Board of Directors to approve the January 2025 service change as revised and summarized in Attachment A, and to authorize the General Manager and CEO or her designee to execute contract amendments as necessary for private operators impacted by service changes. I have a motion.
So, second.
I heard Broom as the movant and the second as Guzman. Any discussion, questions on this action?
I do have a comment.
Director Lewis, please, go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed there was several letters from the area of Boulder talking about Boulder Depot or Boulder Station. And I think it's something that in the 2025 board really run board, probably for the next run board, should be seriously taken a look at. This area has really done some transit-oriented development. They have grown some businesses around there. And I don't need to tell you guys the history, you know, they were expecting a train a long time ago. It didn't happen, but this particular area has grown, and it really aligns with our transit-oriented development goals. So I would hope that our staff would seriously take a look at that for our next run board in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Lewis. I see, wasting no time, Second Vice Chair Geisinger's hand, and please go ahead. I think you have comments related to that.
Music to my ears, Director Lewis. Thank you. It is a beautiful TOD. They're adding, I think, 1,000 units to the 1,500 that are currently there. And the good news is it's music to our staff's ears, too. I've talked with Ms. Johnson, and the hope is to reopen the station at Boulder Junction September, I believe, this year anyhow. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Director Geisinger, and thank you very much, Director Lewis, for your comments. Just for everyone's edification, yes, the Boulder Junction is a prime example of transit-oriented development. One thing is very clear. We have been working closely with our partners at the City of Boulder. One thing that's important to note is, as we talked about a budget that was just approved, we have been intentional and deliberate as we have looked collectively at our core business, which is service delivery, recognizing that the chair and I had a conversation today where I talked about the importance of how you build out a schedule and you deduce how many vehicles you have, and then you go into the people power aspect. So while there has been conversations relative to, oh, we could have this bus serve Boulder Junction, it's not just a bus operator. It's more or less having customer care representatives there. It's having supervisors. It's having relief individuals that would basically address the needs. So we're talking about not just, 3 bus operators, but multiplying that by additional support. With that as a backdrop, as we go forward, it is our intent as we look at the revenue service hours that have been annualized in the budget, that we would be in a position relative to all the progress that has been made with people power, that we would able to work in tandem with our partners up in Boulder, and they would be providing various services in which they operate at Boulder Junction. So that's what we anticipate, and we have been discussing that. I'm not a soothsayer. That's our intention. Everything is anticipated. But as Director Geisinger knows, who's engaged on this issue with me, as well as members of the team that are doing the work relative to this, that is where we are looking to go, recognizing our comprehensive operational analysis, basically notably are branded as the system optimization plan. As we look at what we're doing and where we're going, that is something clearly that we have identified. So I just wanted to add a little more color to that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Director
you.
Geisinger.
Yeah, thanks. And I will move on to the service change and just say thanks so much. I think we had a thorough conversation on this in the Finance and Planning meeting, but this is exciting. We're bringing back a lot of service frequency and extension of hours. Personally, getting the AB bus to the airport, it's been standing room only often, is a huge win, but I know that's true for a number of other buses and trains in the area. And at the risk of misquoting you, Mr. Worthen, I think you said that in January, it would bring us up to 85% of the SOP. Am I something like that? Yeah, which is great. And I'm looking forward to 2025 and hoping we can keep that going. Also, I think the idea of starting a new COA, comprehensive operational analysis, I'm not sure when that's scheduled. I think maybe to start this year, next year, I mean. But I think, I had a couple of good conversations today with a couple incoming board members, and just hearing how things have changed, I think that's an exciting thing too. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Second Vice Chair Geisinger. Director Broom, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question. Did the Boulder downtown station finally get remodeled and reopened?
Director Geisinger, go ahead.
Yeah, it got reopened. There was the meth issue and some of the things. I don't think it was a full remodel, but they cleaned up a number of things. Ms. Johnson, you had something?
Yes, thank you very kindly. Thank you for the question, Director Broom. There was some remediation that was done with the air ducts and things of the like in the floor, and that basically reopened about a year ago.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Broom. Secretary Guzman.
Thank you to the team that looked at this board run, particular thanks for the 1E/44 improvements through the Rhino Art District in the River North area. Something to keep in mind as we go forward, transit-oriented development along the north end of Denver, the I-70 corridor in particular, looking at the Fox Street Station, 41st and Fox Street Station that aligns with the G and the B lines, is a perfect opportunity to create a circulator through the Globeville, Elyria, Swansea area and the southern end of Adams County along I-70, where there is no connected services right now, and be able to serve that community as well. I would be remiss not to state that for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Director Ruscia.
Thank you, sir. I'll be a no vote tonight. I've explained this in previous committees, but just briefly on the record. I don't want to pit communities or directors against each other. You know, some are getting more service, and I understand that excitement. I also represent an area that rides the bus a lot, has a lot of need, and feels like their needs aren't being met relative to growth. And I can say, as a person who also rides the bus in my district, some of these routes are standing room only, and just recognizing that our SOP is from a different era. I don't feel I can ethically, as a representative of the far northeast and North Aurora, vote yes on service changes until we have more data from staff. And so I'm going to vote no tonight, but that is not to disparage it is not to disparage any of my fellow directors or staff's work. And I felt like I should just explain why. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Ruscia. Director Sloan.
Yes, thank you. I know the board and especially staff has a deep understanding of how meaningful it is to add service that maybe had been there before and was taken away, or new service. But I would just like to emphasize that, because it was brought home to me recently, where I was told that there were people refusing to go back to work at NREL until there was transit service on the GS line. That shows the impact of additional service, and I appreciate staff adding it in according to the SOP as we're going along. So thank you very much. It was meaningful to me. I thought I'd let people know.
Thank you, Director Sloan. Second Vice Chair Geisinger, please.
Just quickly, I just wanted to reiterate something that I think Greater Denver Transit raised in the discussion of the budget, which is I forget what they called it, but the chart that showed ridership and the subsidy that RTD did by route, I think was hugely helpful. It can help answer Director Ruscia's concerns. It can help get us ready for the COA. I would love to see that back if we can do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Second Vice Chair Geisinger. Not seeing other hands raised, I'll just note, you spoke earlier about helpers. A lot of folks have been a part of increasing this service. Folks actually delivering the service out there operating and taking care of our facilities and fleet. Service planning certainly, and of course, as has been noted many times here, people operations. We're really seeing the fruits of our labor here as an agency to see some of these positive changes. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, it's been a hard time nationally for U.S. Transit. We've talked about that financially, but I just also note that agencies continue to struggle right now. So disciplined, focused work here is paying off, and thank you for that work. It's an exciting service change. Very happy to be able to vote on this service change before the end of the year here. With that, not seeing other hands raised, I will call for the vote. I know there is one, but I'm going to ask everyone just to raise their hand. Are there any no votes? Okay, I see one no vote, so that will pass. That is with 13 yes votes, 1 no vote, 0 abstentions, the no vote being Director Arusha. Thank you very much. We will now move to our next recommended action. This is item G for the Centennial State Liquidation Investment Pool, or CSLIP, participation. This is for the Board of Directors to approve RTD's participation in the Centennial State Liquid Investment Pool, also referred to as CSLIP. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
All right, I got Rusha as the movement, and I got Bouquet as the second on that one. Pretty close. Darusha. Got it. Combined word. Noted for the sake of the record. All right. Any discussion on this motion? And I'll note there was a helpful discussion around this at the Finance and Planning Committee. Any other discussion tonight? All right, seeing none, I will call for the vote. Are there any no votes? Seeing none, that will pass with 14 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstention. Thank you. We'll move to our next recommended action. This is item H, the 2025 Legislative and Government Relations Program. This is for the Board of Directors to adopt the 2025 Legislative and Government Relations Program. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second, Guzman.
I got Whitmore as the movement, Guzman as the second. Any discussion, questions on this action? All right. Seeing none. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Davies. I saw the. I'll just offer up. We did have a nice discussion at Executive Committee on this, and I just would like to publicly thank Mr. Michael Davies for the organization you've brought to this, and for the help in bringing forward a program like this for us to adopt in preparation for the legislative session. So thank you for that continued work and continued advocacy for the benefit of transit in the region. And thanks for joining us and hanging out and waiting. All right, so I'll go ahead and call for the vote on this one. Are there any no votes? Seeing none, that will also pass with 14 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions. We'll next move to item I. This is the Independent Audit Committee membership appointment, reappointment, and authorization. This is for the Board of Directors to take the following actions related to membership on the Independent Audit Committee. Appoint Director Busick to a term commencing January 1st, 2025 and expiring December 31st, 2026. Reappoint external member John Ohlenberger to term commencing January 1st, 2025 and expiring December 31st, 2026. And to authorize former Director Deschel to remain on the committee through November 17th, 2025. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have Catlin as the movement, the second as Bouquet. Any discussion on this item? All right, thank you. Well, we again had a nice discussion around this at Executive Committee. Thank you to Director Busick for putting in your name and application and stepping up to work on that. We also thank external member John Ohlenberger for his willingness and interest to continue to serve. He has been a great value add. And then, of course, our former Director Deschel offering to stay for an additional year. We've certainly appreciated his leadership. I would be remiss if I didn't note to the board, please continue the good work here. We're a couple years in now, but there's going to be more to be done. We started the conversation at the last meeting of doing a look back and the things that we need to do to further refine. We talked about things about how to take advantage of other reporting and auditing that we're doing with the federal government, for example. There's a lot of opportunities to consolidate, to focus, and to really manage risk of the agency. So please lean into that. It has been one of it's been a real privilege to work on that process throughout my time here. I know when Director Busick was chair, he had asked all board directors, what would you like to see accomplished this year? And I think back that my answer was maybe a boring sounding one, but I wanted a well-functioning internal audit function and audit committee by the end of the year. So I'm grateful to everybody for leaning into that, and our chief financial officer, our GM CEO, and our general counsel Snyder. A lot of hard work went into making that happen. So thank you. Please lean into it. Thanks for those being willing to serve. Director Catlin, please go ahead. First Vice Chair Catlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would really like to thank you for your service, both on the ad hoc committee, getting this thing going, and then your service on the actual audit committee this past year. And we're going to miss your service, but thank you, and we look forward to working with Director Busick.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It was a good one. Director Whitmore.
Yes, I would just like to echo the momentum for this very important task, bantered about a bit and then really brought home by a couple of faces I see at the front of the room. So I certainly appreciate that. And perhaps more importantly, but unofficially, I'd like to second Vince Busick's nomination to the committee.
All right, fair enough. You're here. Well, thank you. I will go ahead and call for the vote here, not seeing other hands. Are there any no votes? All right, seeing none, that will pass with 14 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstention. Moving along here, we will go to item J. This is for bylaw amendments to update descriptions of the executive and performance committees. This is for the Board of Directors to adopt the proposed bylaw amendments, which will clarify the roles of the executive and performance committees, as well as adjust several related administrative matters. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Guzman.
Guzman. Second, Bouquet. Guzman is the movement, and the second as Bouquet. Any discussion on this item? First, I'll just thank our Board Office Executive Manager, Jack Kroll. Thank you for leaning into this one and really helping us with this. There were, again, there was a good discussion at Executive Committee. There's some things that we committed to clarifying pursuant to the fiscal performance audit of the OSA in 2024. Appreciate your leadership in helping the agency pursue those changes and commitments that we had made. So with that being noted, any questions or discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will call for the vote. Are there any no votes? Please go ahead and raise your hand if, okay, seeing none, that will also pass with 14 yes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions. We now move to our sixth action. This is item K for the Citizen Advisory Committee appointments and reappointments. This is for the Board of Directors to appoint 3 new members to 3-year terms, appoint 5 new members to 2-year terms, and reappoint 2 members to 3-year terms to the Citizens Advisory Committee, also referred to as the CAC. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Bouquet.
I have Bouquet as the movement. I see Busick. Busick as the second. Excellent. Any discussion on this motion? Yeah, Treasurer Bouquet, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just wanted to make a comment that it was a pleasure working with Director Lewis on this and all involved. We had a great pool of applicants who applied, and I just wanted to thank everyone who applied and looking forward to those who are going to be serving on the CAC. So thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer. And thank you. We had another good discussion at Executive Committee, but thank you for your work, as was noted there, and Director Lewis for yours as well, and Board Office Executive Manager Kroll, again, for leaning into that and helping with that. Director Rucha, please.
I just also wanted to express thanks to the directors who worked on this. Treasurer Bouquet is often known as the CAC guy. You know, what Director Lewis has done in 6 months, most of us couldn't do in 6 years. So I'm just looking at this list, and I wanted to express appreciation. And seeing the diversity and equity and representation on the CAC. And so I'm very happy to vote yes tonight, and thank you to staff. Thank you, Mr. Kroll, and my fellow colleagues for advancing and revitalizing the CAC, as it were. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ruscia. And I'll, just the closing remark, I'll thank those who applied to the CAC, those who are being appointed, those who are not, again, for, offering up your help and taking time out of your life. Volunteering for these kinds of things says a lot about a person's character. So thank you to all of those who have put their name in. All right, call for the vote. Any no votes? Seeing none, that too will pass with 14 yes votes, 0 no, and 0 abstention. We are at our 7th and final action, item L. This is for transit passes for former directors. This is for the Board of Directors to build upon, ratify, and reaffirm the existing agency practice to provide annual transit passes to all former board directors and designated immediately family member by adopting the enclosed resolution establishing the right of all former directors and a designated immediate family to an annual pass in perpetuity. Do we have a motion? I have Tisdale as the movant.
Second, Guzman.
And Guzman as the second. Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, that too had some good discussion at Executive Committee. Secretary Guzman, please.
Great discussion at Executive Committee. Thank you so much, Directors Busick and Tisdale, for bringing this forward and doing this work and clarifying for future boards what it is. I appreciate the honest and sincere conversations that we had and the struggle to get work done with 15 squirrels, but you did it, so I appreciate it, and thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Secretary, and I will echo that and thank Directors Tisdale and Busick for their work on this and for the discussion at Executive Committee on that. All right, not seeing other hands, I will call for the vote on this. Are there any no votes? Okay, seeing none, that will also pass with 14 yes votes, 0 no, and 0 abstentions. That concludes our recommended actions this evening. Thanks, y'all, as we go through a busy agenda here. So we're now at the report of director activities. Would any director like to report on their activities for November and the portion of December thus far? All right, not seeing any hands raised. With that, this is the final report of director activities with the 7 directors that were noted before that are departing, and just like to again take that time to thank you for your service. Sometimes we highlight activities here, but sometimes a lot goes unsaid. It's a lot of work. Really appreciate everything y'all do. So that brings us to other matters, and if there's anything we wanted to circle back on from before, we can do that, but I'll go ahead and ask any directors to please raise their hand if they have other matters to discuss tonight. All right, not seeing any, and I see General Manager and CEO indicating an interest to talk, so please go ahead for follow-up.
Yes, thank you very kindly, Mr. Chair. Had an opportunity to confer with our Assistant General Manager of Rail Operations relative to the questions that were posed by Director Guzman as well as by Director Harwick. We are going to address those questions in this session right now relative to what is being done relative to the PTC issue that we have with Wabtec, who is a supplier, and then further explain the FRA regulation relative to the decibels and what we are doing to be in compliance, putting safety first and foremost. So with that, Mr. Jensen, I'll yield the floor to you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Dave Jensen, Assistant General Manager of Rail Operations. As I understood, the question initially revolved around the PTC issues. We were having PTC's issues as Ms. Johnson explained earlier, our partner DTO, DTP, we're working in collaboration with WebTech. Those issues were resolved. As you know, and as Ms. Johnson indicated, when the trains are not operating under PTC, they're operating under ATC, which requires the sounding of the horns. There are very specific regulations associated with that. I would recommend actually going to our website, which does a really good job, I think, of explaining what those regulations are and why we do that. A lot of that is relevant to speed. There's time and distance, those sort of things go into play as it relates to the way that the horns are sounded. I would note that the engineers don't have control over the decibel level of the trains, of the horns. So essentially what they're doing is pushing a button and sounding the horn. There's a sequence that's required. It's 2 longs, a short and a long for every grade crossing, and then again a certain time period with which it needs to be sounded. So again, if we're getting customers complaining to us that it sounds like the horns are sounding too loud at certain times when others, we could look into specifics of that. It's possible that there's a mechanical issue with the train. We could look at the decibel levels, but the engineers themselves don't have control over how loud the horn is being sounded. I think that addresses that in terms of the PTC issue that we were experienced. That's been resolved for the time being. We do have one grade crossing right now, which is York grade crossing on the A line, which is requiring horn soundings because we're getting a failure indication there. That also impacts 2 other grade crossings, Still Street and Clayton. So DTO is working on that right now, and in fact, they're working on that this evening, trying to get resolution to that problem. And we're in daily contact with them, trying to get these issues resolved. So I believe I've addressed the issues or the questions there may have been, but if there's others, I'd be happy to take those now.
Go ahead, please, General
Yes,
Manager
thank you.
Ncio.
Just for further clarification, PTC, positive train control, automatic train control. Mr. Jensen referenced the website. What we did some time ago with the help of our diligent communications engagement staff was create a web page. The certain regulations to which we have referenced relative to the Federal Railroad Administration, specifying when sounding of horns are required. That is on our web page. And just wanted to clarify, you could put in Mr. Summers, the web page as it relates /train horns. I knew it had to be something simple. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Manager Ncio. Mr. Jensen, thanks for sharing that information with us and helping with that. I see a couple hands raised, so I'll go to Director Harwick.
I know this answer, but I'm just going to ask it just so you get it just out in the ether. So a lot of my constituents, they regularly remind me that it's a quiet zone. And can you address that why we still need to sound horns even when it's considered a quiet zone?
Mr. Jensen?
Yes, I think the misnomer is the term quiet zone, which may imply that there's never going to be a sound, but safety requires us to sound the horn under certain conditions. So as I explained, the federal regulation is if we're not under positive train control, then we do going through the crossing. But there could be other things. There could be construction. There could be a person in the right-of-way. There could be any number of reasons why an engineer might believe that it's necessary to sound the horn. It's always with the intent of safety in mind. If something occurs, then they really are required to sound their horn. And it's never going to be completely silent, but it is intended to be as quiet as it can be.
Thank you very much. Director Rosenthal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to Thank you for your service. I was really moved by your statement earlier and your report, so I just wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank all my colleagues. It was an honor and a pleasure to serve with you. Thank you to our general manager. Thank you to your staff and to our board office. Thank you to our community for always coming and keeping us on our toes. And thank you to the people of District E for electing me. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Director Rosenthal. Thank you for your service. Secretary Guzman.
Thank you. I need to return to the train horns. So I just want to make sure that we understand why this happened. It is my understanding that there was an accident with the arm that lowers at the York Street crossing, which made contact with the overhead catenary system and caused the issues with the positive train control, requiring us to go to automatic train control procedures. Is that correct? It was about 2 weeks ago. And the reason I bring this up is because the community has been pretty quiet, fairly patient, I think, but after 2 weeks of train horn sounding, they're starting to get agitated, rightfully so. But the reason I brought it up earlier and want to make sure that this is on the record is that we have all of the information available for the public, because I've gotten a number of questions from city council members' offices, as well as the communities of Gloveville, Elyria, Swansea, Cole, Whittier, and Clay. And if you just pass Colorado Boulevard, because this is the A line that runs on the side of District C that would then join up with District B. And so in order to have a full set of facts, to be able to respond to constituents in an appropriate manner, just want to make sure that we have that understanding. This was not something that RTD did or that RTD had control over directly, but we must respond for the purpose of public safety. So is any of that incorrect or not factual?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Yes, so that is factual. That's correct. I would add that we had two situations occurring at the same time. So there was a, and I don't have the dates in front of me, so I don't want to misspeak, but it was around Thanksgiving that last week, where we did have a PTC failure, a positive train control failure. And that was addressed with DTO and WABTEC. The incident that you're referring to did create a situation where it impacts the PTC in as much as it's showing right now train occupancy. So it shows a failure on the grade crossing, but it's not necessarily a PTC failure. It's actually acting the way it should. It's a result of the incident that you described and finding out where exactly that train occupancy indication is stemming from. And so DTO is working on that right now. It's not currently believed that that's a PTC problem necessarily. Certainly once all of the infrastructure is inspected, we can go back to PTC possibly, but that one grade crossing is still, because it's not yet resolved, we're not completely sure exactly where it is. But yes, it's not something we caused. We do have to respond to it. We are working on it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jensen. Thank you, Secretary, for the clarification. Any other matters? Yes, Director Ruscia.
On the PTC issue, as a person who lives in Central Park, I am sorry for those who have had to join the club. And I hope you don't stay in the club for as long as we did. But as noted, those horns are sounded for safety. So to reduce the possibility of an individual or motorist getting hit by a train. And as Mr. Jensen mentioned, we do have a web page up. Maybe we can just add a few more things so that folks are a little bit more aware of regulations and such. I think that would be helpful, especially to directors, and they can direct them to something more comprehensive. But thank you, and thank you for taking time at the end of a long evening to speak to us.
Thank you, Director Ruscia. And again, thank you, Mr. Jensen. Again, any other matters from any directors on any topic at all? All right. Seeing none, I just will note a couple of things here. So as a reminder for anyone listening in, participating remotely, or here in the room, this is our last regularly scheduled board meeting, non-special board meeting, regularly scheduled board meeting for the year. The new board with 7 new directors will be, new board directors, 7 new directors will be sworn in at a meeting on Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. The districts that will have new representation in 2025 are districts A, D, E, F, H, I, and M. And then Director Bouquet was re-elected for a second term and will be continuing his service on the board for another 4-year term representing District G. Thank you for running and congratulations. And of course, as already noted, Director Broom, Director Lewis, Director Rosenthal, Director Sloan, Director Tisdale, thank you very much for the service. It's been a pleasure, and I don't know what else to say other than thank you. So with that, seeing no other discussion, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I heard Arusha. The meeting is adjourned as of 8:41 Mountain Standard Time. Thank you. Go be helpers.